everybody. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network special report, MiGOP in crisis. We're going to be going through the report that just came out from Warren Carpenter, prepared by Troy, I think it's Cumings. And I wanted to give everybody just a minute to get on board here. I am, hang on a minute, let me get my let's get BNN up and all that sort of thing. You know, it's kind of funny when you're working like 5 different screens online, and let's see what happens here, because you got to keep track of everything. And this is real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table, so you get what you get. So anyhow, welcome, Warren. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Donna.
Yeah, I bet you got a lot of calls today. I'm telling you what I did.
Man, yeah, it was a busy media day for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's some people are happy about things coming out. Some people are not happy about things coming out. And all I can say is, I don't know about you, but I'm done living in Disney World, fantasy reality here. We're going to have to come to terms with some very difficult things. And this is so far past personalities. We have to look at the facts. And, you know, I want to really say that you know, I congratulate you for keeping your cool as long as you did this morning. And I really, a lot of people were like, you need to mute down. I'm like, no, that's not what we do. Sometimes people need to see for themselves what's really going on. And I thought that was a valuable exercise. And just, you know, you give people enough rope and they generally hang themselves. And so that's not a bad process. If anyone wants to come in and talk about anything, whether I agree with them or not, that's fine. But I think that we have to have the same respect for everyone to give them a chance to talk. So with that said, we have the report here. Let's give a little background, would you, on this report, what started it? And then we're going to go through this point by point. And I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be your first interview. I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that actually keep their word, because very, very few people, and you told me this a while back, what you were doing.
3 months ago, you gave me the first exposure, and I said if you would let me on your show to discuss this, that when it came out, I would give you the first interview, and that was a promise. And I was on this morning, and then I'll be on again this evening. You get a double hit.
I get a double hit. So anyhow, Warren kept his word every step of the way. He's kept his word with me. With my little effort here that we do, and I've got great respect for that. That you said what you meant. You know, you meant what you said, and you kept your word. So thank you very much. So let's go ahead and dive into this report here, because this is amazing, and there's more that's coming out. There's questions that we all have to ask. We have to ask questions like, I think we need to be looking into receipts, and that was something I said right from the beginning, that Melinda Pago needed to start looking into receipts, and the other people in the party ask for, how do I say that? Melinda knew where the receipts were. Let's put it that way. The party needed to ask for the receipts. And so this is important. And right now we need to be asking about receipts, the Comerica receipts. We also need to be looking into the trusts that were out there. And also, when I do research or investigate companies and such, there's almost always other LLCs or entities set up underneath the ones that we're looking at. You have to dig for them. So like, I look for people and then I'll go under their aliases, because almost everybody there has aliases. And so you have many people.
Yeah, it's like a FOIA gate where FOIA gate where they misspell one letter of your name.
And then you have to go through every conceivable misspelling, look at the addresses, see who's attached to those addresses, find out who's underneath them, what other companies they have. And quite often you'll find things like, you know, somebody such as, the Macomb County clerk who had something registered to an Oklahoma address, which I still don't have that thing chased down all the way, but there's complexities there. Or things like people associated with say, Dan Hartman associated with Rice University. And I found some of those connections down there. The people that he's associated with, there are connections there, which is a little concerning, because they're dealing in biological experimentation, like bioluminescence crossing the blood-brain barrier, which I want to go, why? And what's the connection there? There's so many of them, but we need to see who's connected to who and why this is, it spreads out like a spider web. And say one time you run down one area, you'll come to another area and start finding out that they actually have cells. And so the communist organism is made up of many, many cells. And once you find the cells, you can kind of start connecting the dots. So let's go ahead and bring up, and there's a lot of people that pose as, they're playing games. Okay. Everybody's playing games out there. So you run them down and you can see, you follow the money and you find a connection. So let's check this out a minute and go, tell your background with this. And then I've got the report right here.
Yeah, I just want to give everyone kind of a primer on the report and on why on the screen with Donna, and for ever since I voted for Trump in 2016 and he was president, right? Like it was always like he was like the law and order president. You know what I mean? Like I think that we all accepted that, like in our party and like in our movements, our respective party and movements. If he was your president, like you thought he was a law and order president, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's where this all starts from. So if someone's going to tell me that it's okay for people to operate the way that they've operated and do the things they do and excuse the violations of law and the misdealings, and then the complete lack of awareness to all you had to do was just apologize and say, we don't know, and can someone help us and bring something in together. Like if you're going to excuse that, then you cede all moral high ground in all of our arguments. And it makes us look ridiculous. And I can't stress this enough, like with all the fun, stuff that's going on, because there's so much excitement. And when I say fun, like, if I'm going to do this, I have to be able to find some way to get through it. And so I have to gamify it. So it has to be something that I'm working through to get to the end. And inside of that, if this wasn't all for truth, and it wasn't all because I think and I found, and it's been corroborated, and it's been now canonized in this document, that there's malfeasance and there's things that are wrong and there's things that are criminal, because the code says they are, not because I do. And if we don't accept that, like, then we're just lying to ourselves. And I don't know what that means for us after this. And I'm serious about this. And I've thought long and hard about this all day, Don. I've had this conversation with 10 people. And this is the first time I'm saying this, because it's like weighing on me that, like, the complete disregard for what is truth in the truth movement right now is scary to me. This isn't what I expected. I expected people to take time. They say they want to know, they say they want to use their human agency to move this movement forward. Well, that takes education. That takes understanding the rules of the game, the board, right? And to your point, in this, we had to go down a bunch of rabbit holes, but we found dead ends. And sometimes in life, some of these things aren't connections. They're just dead ends. And we have to be like savagely honest about ourselves about that as well, right? Mm-hmm. It's okay to be the most conspiracy-minded people in history because we are like batting 1,000. We're so good. But at the same point in time, we have to be realistic that not everything is a conspiracy. And then inside that, my role in this is trying to convince you that your leader is, but I've got all this evidence and all these facts and the institutional knowledge, and then multiple people saying it's not just me, right? I mean, I brought this to the attorney because he's a guy that would question the fact that this would even be legitimate. And I got pushback early on until people continue to say the same thing. So I just want to preface all of this tonight. And I hope people see it through that lens, because I think it's incredibly important to understand like what this is. It's not a personal thing. I hope Kristina steps down. I hope the party moves forward. I hope that's the easiest way through. But like today was kind of a bummer for me, because not because I don't think that people aren't getting it. That's not it. It's just that it's a realization that this is really where we're at, in our movement, that that the truth movement cried truth for so many years that, when if they could just go online and type in the FEC and start looking at stuff and then matching it up with the report, they'll see themselves, right? And it's and all the platitudes that are given to you about what the excuses are, everybody knows they don't ring true, and so the report is a culmination of that, and that's kind of the primer I would give you.
Well, what I really like is I think we've got to get away from these personality debates, because we can find reasons to both like and hate everybody we talk to, right? As human beings, we tend to want to by how people make us feel. That's how most people evaluate the people around them. It's not whether they're telling the truth; it's how they make us feel. And we have to get away from this emotionally immature way of looking at people. Let somebody go off. Who cares? Who cares? Just listen to them and not look for the next new hero or savior to save us, but truly listen for information, because even the person that seems the craziest out there may have the information or a key to something that is critical to getting to the essence or the core of the problem. And it doesn't mean they're going to have the whole situation, but you figure out how to pick out those significant pieces of information, and then trust yourself to try to pay attention and observe and knit them together into the real story. Because most people out there are playing games. Even General Flynn talks about it. We're in fifth generation warfare right now. Everyone is playing it, even the good guys. So when they say that misinformation is necessary, that's part of defeating a very, very evil entity that has subverted this nation from within. I am far more concerned with the enemy within than the perceived enemy without, because China could never have invaded this country through illegal immigration, using children as shields at the border, had there not been cooperation from within our government. And it's so the fault lays squarely there. So anyhow, let's go on. We could talk about this for a long time.
All right. Yeah. So, the report went out last night. Hopefully everybody in the party, as far as the delegate and county boards, executive committees, so on and so forth, everyone received the document. It went out to some other Republicans as well. Just a primer on the report. The report is a culmination of about 3 months of investigation and pulling together witness statements from people inside of the administration, as well as the state committee, on their experiences, on things that were said, firsthand knowledge, documentation that was provided to them, that was provided to the report. And so it's not just my opinion. It's not Warren Carpenter's report or my reflection of ideas. That's why I had Troy and brought Troy in to help and run the analysis, because there's no possible way that I could devote enough time to get a document like this completed. I mean, it's pretty comprehensive. A couple of attorneys have seen it that I know as well, outside of Troy, and it's thorough, and it doesn't assume that we have all of the information about every single topic or subject, but enough that we can comprise, maybe, a source document and then a second source of testimony, backed up, by another source. So we really went through and did a lot of diligence on this. And so
you dropped it this morning that you are going to be filing you are going to be filing, correct?
Yeah, I think that there's parties here that are aggrieved that want to put together a complaint. And I think that's what we're going to move to do.
Okay. So so this is not just
the report. The report is an analysis for every single precinct delegate in the state to really understand the state of the party and kind of how some of this stuff works. If their understanding isn't as broad, tonight could be really educational, I think, for a lot of people. because they'll get an idea of exactly how maybe things should have been ran. And it's not like when I say ran in the past, right? That doesn't mean like, oh, you mean the way the globalists ran it? No, it's not what I'm talking about. Like what I'm talking about is I'm talking about how you run it within the restrictions of the law. Okay. Like how you run it, how you run it. So how you run it so you don't get violations and you don't put people in jeopardy of criminal behavior or liability, right? About doing it in compliance. One of the first hires, I'll say this right now, of this administration, honestly, should have been someone that had compliance experience, because it's so bizarre. No, everyone that's seen it says like they've never seen anything like it because it just doesn't make any sense. It's the craziest concoction of the way that you would run the inner workings of a party that anyone's ever seen. So it's a pretty damning document.
Okay. So where do we go from here? So the failed leadership of the Karamo administration. We'll just keep going down here a little bit until we get to the point of here. Let me move this up a minute so I can see what I'm doing here. All right, there you go.
Yeah. So basically, this is the introduction of what it is, and this kind of just talks about background, right? And background is like kind of where we were and here we are, right? This is synopsis of how she came into leadership. Kind of the mood of the party at the time and the overall kind of what I would call the pop culture aspects of it. So it kind of gives you, a novel type paragraph of, synopsis of how we got here and really what's going on. I think that the most important part of the first paragraph is to really focus on these kind of last couple sentences. And it says, in addition, despite fanciful promises of raising tens of millions of dollars, her financing plan has completely failed. And people need to understand that we were promised a plan, right? There was supposed to be something that's supposed to be happening right now. And it's not really talked about in this report, but, I can ad lib about it because, I had conversations with Phil about it and heard as much from Kristina in passing conversations, which has put the party at imminent risk of defaulting on its line of credit, right? Which brings us to kind of this building thing that we'll unpack a little bit deeper, and potentially needing to declare bankruptcy. And these last sentences are really crucial. Further, rather than surround herself with effective people experienced in operating parties and political committees, her governing group had no such experience and has put the party and its partners in a position facing significant civil and criminal consequences for failing to follow state and federal law. This document is written by an attorney who is the former assistant attorney general of Michigan, who's a partner at a prestigious law firm, who took great care and time. This is a 3-month analysis with 10 witnesses, 1,000 documents, and he has experience in this realm. He's an RNC attorney for Michigan, this guy, right? He's going to be the RNC election attorney for 2024. So, when he puts words in like that, it's not because he has a vendetta against Kristina or I'm writing this as a point of vitriol. It's a statement of fact that the way that the campaign finance has been ran in the party and the way that they treated the people who've worked in the party and the liability they're exposing people in state committee to now in the party with this lawsuit is grievous and it's criminal. And we just need to my point earlier when I opened up, we need to understand the gravity of that. So that's just kind of the primer. Then we kind of go into some more facts with problems out of the gate.
Well, I tell you, there was enough people that resigned because they saw what was coming here and did not want to be caught up in the criminal proceedings that are very likely to fall out of this from what I could see.
Yeah, we, if you want to go through the roster of shuffle, it's none of the director positions have shuffled. So Dan Hartman has not shuffled. Rich Parada has not shuffled. And then, Mike Labby, I guess, as chief secret advisor hasn't shuffled. And then Kristina, when you look at and then chief of staff, right? Joel has been there until Lori just took over. Lori Skibo is now chief of staff. When you look at that, but you look down below where everything at the next tier, which are treasurer, right? We've had 3 treasurers or 4 treasurers.
That's kind of absurd. That is absurd.
Well, yeah, in an organization in which the treasurer is supposed to be your compliance officer and tell you, yes or no to to certain things that could be violation. Like when you're the treasurer and the compliance officer, like that's a very massive responsibility. And there's a reason that like only certain individuals have done it in the past. It's not because it's a club. It's because only certain people understand this type of niche law so much that they're thorough. Right. It's like a specialization if you're a cancer doc, you know what I mean? So like that's the kind of care that you need to take with it as well. So, that's that, when I don't know that, I guess wherever the point was going, that was what I was going to say. So I don't know where we're at now. I keep getting lost, Donna. Sorry.
Right.
So problems out of the gate is the next paragraph. And now we're just going to talk about, this is kind of a synopsis of where the story is from the first paragraph, but we get in deeper. Talks about the beginning of the administration and kind of clears up the fact that Ron Weiser did pay down some of the debt. When Kristina first got in as chair at the very first state committee meeting, she said that wasn't the case, that Ron left her $2 million in debt and this and that. Now we find out, well, it wasn't really 2 million. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 130,000, maybe plus some ancillary credit card debt that still hasn't been confirmed whether that's what it was or isn't 100%, because it's hard to track down any documents because nothing was provided. But it shows you that when she took over, she basically was, could reasonably be thought with, upon information and belief that they were about $130,000 in debt total, right? And if they would have liquidated the accounts to pay down the debt, like they would have started with $130,000. And it goes on to talk about, like, for an example, like in 2021, the party started $405,000 in debt. So after a general cycle for us, that really wouldn't have been that bad, considering, we were 450 in debt, right around there. And in the past, it goes on to talk about how, the past would the party would raise money for that debt by the summertime and then move forward and would start raising money for the following cycle by the fall, and have already amassed somewhat of a little war chest. And it's then it goes on to really talk about the important part to begin is she ran on a platform of transparency, partnership, and trust. And as you get to the bottom of this next page, right, I want to talk about the footnote sections. So this is how you're going to use the exhibits when you go through the report. And I know this is crazy, but there's enough anons on this show listening and watching that will understand what I'm talking about. There's also hyperlinks inserted that are going to take you to documentation about where the claims in our report are backed up, whether by exhibit or by source cited footnote. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important because everyone keeps saying bring facts. Like, I'm bringing you the facts and I'm matching it up with the criminality and law, as well as the documentation that'll take you right to a campaign finance website or right to a campaign finance reporting website, which will give you, an expenditure, so on and so forth. Or you're going to have source documents as were provided by witnesses and or their testimony. That's how we're going to get through this document and know that the things that I'm saying are brought to you with this kind of weight, if that makes any sense.
Perfectly.
Okay. So, when we go into the beginning of the administration, I remember Kristina had told Phil and I that this plan that she ran on, the small business plan that basically Labadie came up with, they came up with it upstairs. Well, they didn't come up with it upstairs in my office, but they were going over it upstairs in my office. She was doing a video shoot and was rehearsing her lines on how to go through the plan. But I remember them pitching it, and it was basically like a multiplication table. He was saying, if you touch 5 businesses, by $3, you got $15. If you do that times $1 million, then you got 15 million. It's like, so like that was kind of like the math to get to the number. And I knew that was kind of hokey, and I kind of made some comments about it, but people were really amped up, right? I remember Phil talking about it and like, hey, like, yeah, like, we're going to contact these businesses. And remember, the promise was that these businesses we were going to restore trust and faith in the party. And, just so we understand that right out of the gate, she wasn't being sabotaged. The very first state committee meeting, there was a vote for Annie Delisle as secretary, and Kristina won that 80% to 20. She had a mandate, right? She had a very strong mandate. She had people that were behind her. And so this fundraising plan they came up with was supposed to be spearheaded by this woman. But she didn't do anything because she went through some troubles or something. I don't even remember the story, but about what exactly happened to the woman. But she just faded in the website to the wayside, and nobody ever followed up with her. So the plan never got off the ground after months. And I remember like going on the campaign trail. This is what she's constantly talking about. So I'm just trying to bring everyone's headspace back to what's really in this thing. Okay. There's only 17 pages that we have to go through this dialogue, but it's all the exhibits that go. So there's 120 plus exhibits. So that shows you how thorough it is. So, going into the lack of fundraising and continued debt, upon becoming the party chair, she developed a financial plan of funding the party is going to raise $20 million over the past 2 years, blah, blah, blah. Expanded donor pool. Like these are all the things. This is basically her funding, her plan. So we put it in the document to show you where we were supposed to be, right? So we were supposed to technically be at about $8,814,000 at this point in her plan. And it shows that she's only raised $185,000 up to the point of the October, the March to October span. So as you go down further, we did research into the prior party and did some information pulling. And I know everyone's going to say, well, that's globalist Ron Weiser and this or that. I understand that if that's your take on this thing. But like I said at the beginning, this isn't about somebody's personality or what someone's told you about how to feel about somebody. This is about law and order and right and wrong. And that's the reason I'm here. And there's no other reason except for that. So the facts are the facts. And if I bring up a prior administration and that triggers you and you can't get past that part of it, I'm sorry, I'm trying. Okay.
We're looking for facts. We're not looking for personalities, because there's so many people that are committing bad action. I can't even say the words that I want to use, but there are so many people that are doing the wrong thing that I don't know about you, but I'm not ready to call anybody as a hero in any of these situations in this state right now, because what we can do is look for the facts and try to back our way out of this and or go forward with it. And it's not going to be based on personalities. It's going to be based on what we figure out is wrong and how to right it.
I'm going to tell you something right now, and I hope the audience understands this. There is a serious uniting moment in this, and what that is the truth of whatever this is, right? I'm not saying that everything that I've been told or I have is 100% figured out and it's 100%, a slam dunk, this or that. This report is as bulletproof as it could possibly be with every piece of information truthfully communicated, right? Facts laying bare where they are. But what I meant by a unity moment is if people will understand that at the end of this, and they understand this, the truth of whatever this is, right? They should be demanding that, because that should tell you on what side you should fall. And it goes back to that point. Are we the party of law and order or are we not? And that's where I'll leave it on that point. But I'm just going to make 2 points on the fundraising thing. So basically the prior administration, and everyone can say, oh, like they raise money and that doesn't do anything. They just give it to consultants and this and that. Yeah. You can say that all day long, but hopes, dreams, wishes, and aspirations don't buy yard signs. Okay. They don't buy technology. They don't buy walk lists. They don't buy data, right? And they don't buy mailers. They don't buy communication services. They don't buy events in order to message. They don't buy field directors to go into your counties. All right. They don't buy support, and you need support. And this is the biggest part of why we're in the situation we're in. And to tap on that. So she spent the money down that she was given and then claims that it's all debt and that Ron saddled her with $500,000. There's no possible way. The party, and it's not Ron. And she just keeps doing this because this is a trigger for people, and people got to understand this is what's going on. This is a deep state, globalist, Marxist, all this, like facts. Okay. I don't want to hear any of your mishmash talk about any of this. I want to see facts. I want to see facts laid bare. Not your innuendo, not your comments, not your thoughts and prayers. I want to see your facts, and so that's where I'm at on this. I'm taking personality out of it. It's about the numbers and it's about the facts. So it goes into the Joe Moss payments and the For Liberty payments of $90,000 when, she only had $300,000, but, $450,000 of debt obligation, putting her, net. This is how we got deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. The party at the bottom of this goes through some other stuff too, where this is the first time you're going to see source documents telling you where to look on income statements, where to look on bank statements, and then clicking through where you can go right to the FEC documents, or you can go right through the state search for the consulting fees and so on and so forth, where primal fundraising's talked about. She hired a fundraising consulting firm that was supposed to help her and train her how to fundraise. And she paid them $26,000 with your money. And I just like, we have to understand this. And that firm raised $1,205. So she spent $26,000 to raise $1,200. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You want to talk about a significant waste of funds and an upside down business model? Like, these are facts, people. Like, you gotta understand, someone told me in confidence, who was in the report as a witness, that she had hired a fundraise trainer. They were paying $4,000 a month to teach Kristina how to fundraise, and she's blowing off the appointments. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's truth. And the delegates don't understand this. They don't understand really, what to believe, because she's done such a good job of getting up there and kind of mixing this, this faith talk with this anger about, our kids. And, I mean, she accused the state committee members, 57 of them, of holding a quorum meeting in person, right, to air grievances, that they don't want certain things to happen, and they want fair representation on a call to starving children. I mean, it's just the hyperbolic rhetoric from the other side is just a little bit ludicrous.
This is like really crazy, because if you're paying a consultant firm that's supposed to be an expert on this $26,000 to raise $1,200, why didn't she go back on them and say, look, there had to be some guarantee of performance there, and if you don't, what are you going to do to reimburse me for that money? There should always be some sort of a clause on there for delivery, like for performance. If they can't perform on what they say they do, that right there's a big problem with that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It kind of leads to this point about all this early spending and the spending through, and the lack of transparency. In the third line, it says, third, Ms. Karamo has apparently not appropriated funds ethically. And what he means by that is because they have not been provided transparently, in the funding and the expenditures, and has not acted in a manner that restores trust. I mean, that was the whole point of her business plan, was that the party was going to restore trust, so then businesses would feel comfortable donating, and then all these businesses would come off the sidelines, and we'd have millions of dollars in the bank account. Well, I just told you that program never got off the ground, because nobody ever followed up with the woman that was supposed to head it up, because she had to go through some stuff, I guess, personally, which is totally life. That happens. But there was no one there to even make the phone call to pick up the pieces. Now it's being foisted upon you that the reason the party can't fundraise is because I'm telling you that the party can't fundraise. Before that, it was the party did fundraise, but then we found out that it wasn't really fundraising. It was actually Mackinac money that was passed through the federal account to look like it was fundraising. And people lied to me about that in the middle of summer, and then we go through, now where we're at now. So now we're coming out to, the end of where we are in the fiscal life cycle, up to last month. And it talks about this big, huge influx of money that's come into the federal account, right? And then another 20,000 into the state convention account and 19,000 in small donations. It's actually a pretty good month for them. And so, it said, prior to this, they received $41,000 in large donors. And then after this, the October report in November, it said 263 in large, or in a large donation, right, in major donors. So that lends us to believe that a huge donation came in for somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000, roughly, right? Let's just ballpark it. But it went into the federal account again. And so, as recently as this morning, people were telling me that, they're saying that Kevin McCarthy's PAC is the PAC that donated this money into the federal account. Well, like, that's, that also raises some questions, and even Troy said that doesn't make any sense. Like, it still can't work that way because of the way that the federal PAC is set up. And, that money would go directly to candidates, because that's how the Protect Your House PAC works, right? It's about putting money in candidates' pockets for, to protect the House, to keep them over the finish line. Listen, like, everything just gets more fanciful. So more information on the budget committee, I'm sure, will come about that tonight. They have a meeting tonight. And then to wrap up this paragraph here at the bottom of page 4, it says, in addition, not only has Ms. Karamo refused to be fully transparent in regard to the finances of the party, she has failed to ensure the party's accuracy reports and all the party's contributions, expenditures, and other financial activity according to state and federal campaign finance laws. And then it talks about the example of the For Liberty payment, in which it says the $74,000 payment to For Liberty. This payment has not been reported on any of the party's campaign finance reports. So, like, there's no, like, they never wanted you to find out about the For Liberty payment until it was found in the bank statements. And once it was found in the bank statements, they had to backtrack. And then they said that they had a receipt and an invoice, but then the budget committee's never seen it. And then they came up with, after the budget committee demanded it, they moved the goalposts again. And then you couldn't see it because they had an NDA. So you're just expecting me to believe that every time that you get pushback, that some new hurdle is going to stop you from seeing a document that was never there in the first place. It's, again, draw your own conclusions. And that's what I hope people do.
Well, I've got a problem with is the fact that Joe Moss was the one that recommended that Kristina Karamo for the position of chair, I believe. And then the next thing you know, he shows up.
First payment.
Yeah, it's like he shows up as the one that's getting these payments in a company for liberty that wasn't quite like out there. And then he's got an MiGOP email address.
Yeah.
And so it looks like they were considering this. It just doesn't have a good feel to it,
Yeah. There was some kind of hearsay comments about some stuff that was said in between Joe Moss and Joel Studebaker that kind of alluded to, like, he couldn't be seen as working with the party. So, he was going to work behind the scenes and, like, they'd pay him through his consulting thing. And, that was communicated to people. So, that's not a secret. It's out there. Some people know where that comes from, but that was sourced by a couple of people, actually. It's like that clip that I have on my Facebook on my reel thing or whatever. I don't do a lot of those on the Facey space, but I had the one where it said, Kristina Karamo was at the Macomb event on the 19th. And she said, we're not just going to go around and, enrich our friends and, have cronyism or whatever, spend money through cronyism. I don't remember the exact terminology, but then it clips right back to Joel Studebaker going into, this one's kind of personal with me. Of course we do business with our friends, Joe Moss is a friend. And it's like, wait a second, even in their own words, every time these people come forward, like, it's just a fumble of where the facts really fall and lie. And I think that's so people really need to start to understand about this document is it provides real clarity about the situation. And if you didn't know that these are the kinds of things that are going on in malfeasance, that maybe this is an opportunity for you to just start asking questions, right? I'm not saying, oh, come to my side, believe what I believe. No, I encourage you to really start asking some start asking some questions. Use the Socratic method, right? Use the Socratic method, get out there and really just start asking questions, and then see who are the people who are trying to provide you real honest answers and giving you as much factual information and documents as possible. And then look at the ones that are saying, well, now there's an NDA, and then now the dog ate the NDA, so we can't even give it to you because we don't even have a copy of it. That's like the next way this thing's going to go. So
what was really disturbing to me is when I saw what Joe Moss paid on his own campaign.
Oh yeah.
Which was, there's such a disparity with what he paid on his own campaign. But man, you get into the MiGOP and we're talking just an obscene disparity in what he was personally willing to pay for his own stuff. But boy, he gets into the MiGOP and wham, the price just goes through the roof for what.
It's not, $90,000 over the course of 60 days for 9 laptops, I guess. And then, financial communications things, but like they use Microsoft Teams. Like Kristina Karamo sent me an open, unprotected Google link. And that's how all the documentation from Mackinac got opened. So if she's out there telling you that I had nothing to do with Mackinac and I was just this little bit player, why did I get the contract for every single thing that was going on? Why did I get every single piece of documentation? That's how the Fours list got shared, because it was in the Google link that she sent me, okay, unprotected. And the funny thing is, I forgot about that link right after our calls because I was like so bummed out about everything. And 2 weeks later is when I opened it back up again and it was still unprotected. So
yeah,
she sent the documents to me. Like, this isn't like I'm not some like deep state plant people. Okay. I saw it up close and it was bad.
I was really shocked that they were ranking people. It was kind of I don't know. It's upside. There's so many things that are upside down. Like the precinct delegates should be representing their constituents, not just falling lockstep with a party. This is really, really disturbing to me, because it's centralization of power, and it's the same thing that we've seen over and over again in politics. It's an illusion of choice, but they're picking who we have to vote for, and it's not based on our input or we the people's input. It's them, the establishment.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, Donna, because right now Jim Kopis is crafting this document, and it's been shared, and some people on the state committee understand this. And what their idea for the party is that the county parties will be licensee structures from the party. And inside that licensee structure, candidates will also have to come and be vetted through the state body in order to be able to run as a Republican. So there'll be no more primaries and no more voting for people that way. The party will have to tell you if you're a Republican or not.
Yeah, this is a bunch of nonsense because
that's crazy, Donna. That's crazy.
Elections are supposed to be in the counties. The counties are supposed to run the elections, not the state. And when you've got an organization like this that wants to tell people who is approved and who is not approved, this is some sort of, World War II, Hitler, Nazi nonsense here.
It's authoritarian. At the bottom of the report, we'll talk about At the bottom of the report, we'll talk about the governing group and how the authoritarian rule really is. It's in the report. It's pretty extensive. So I'm going to finish up this one section, these two sections on page 5, just real quick. Just so everyone understands. So this is really the culmination of where our analysis says, we're in bankruptcy, right? Because bankruptcy means that you have more debt than you have obligations that you can pay for, or financial mechanisms in which to pay them. Because in campaign finance world, right, and in running a party that has a state account, a federal account, a state federal account, an administrative account, a chair account, when we have all of these accounts, each one of them have their own kind of lanes in which you can swim, and certain things are off limits or are acceptable. And, when you start talking about that, that means that when money goes into a certain account, that doesn't mean that that's money that can just be transferred here to pay this bill or transferred there to pay that bill. It doesn't work like that. The restrictions are in place to protect that money. So it's not soft money that's coming in from everywhere like Soros. Again, I'm going to go back to the party of law and order thing, right? I understand that people say, oh, well, act blue and all this stuff. And that doesn't mean that we become criminals. Okay. That doesn't mean that we break the law, right? That means that we exploit every single tax loophole the same way that Donald Trump told you. That's why I do Hillary Clinton, and you won't change it because your friends won't let you. We exploit every single opportunity that's given to us and afforded us within the legal limits of the law. But these people, it's a spaghetti mess of commingling that it's going to be impossible without an audit to uncover how all these balances got transferred to all these accounts and really where all the money went. And there's going to have to be an investigation in this, right? They put off the last audit because they waited too long. And I think that if we continue to wait too long, we're going to see a real negative effect of this. So just to summarize this, right? So we get to the number of $620,000 in debt. There's outstanding debt other places too, as well as the Mackinac Grand. We seem to believe that there's the possibility of another $146,000 based upon the contract language alone, on belief and information from that, as well as some conversations that we've had in the orbit of people that would know. When you look at the financial situation, right? She started with 130, right? Now we're $750,000, 9 months down the road, right? There's no more money in the bank than was before. So the financial position is not going to get better. And this is another time that I think that we need to have an honest conversation. What do you think is going to make this better now that she has less than 50% support of the body? Okay. Now that she's at 40% of the body or 35% of the body, I honestly want you to know who, knowing this mess is going to help this woman, she needs to step aside and resign to do the right thing for the party and find a career that suits her. This is not that career, right? I am sorry, Madam Chair. I am sorry. So, this is that's page 5. I just wanted to go through that because I think it's really poignant to understand that we don't even know how bad it is, because an audit would uncover, I guarantee you, far, far more malfeasance. Like, nobody knows if all the speakers are paid. Nobody knows that. She says they are, right? But you just have to believe her because she's your parent and you're a kid, and it's because I said so. I mean, that's the game that we're playing. We're not operating inside the bylaws of the organization. The state party has totally handed over their authority to the administration, and she's doing this in their name. They gave her and continue to give her the leverage to do things that are going to be a reflection upon them and the party for years to come. The inability of the state committee acting on some of these things is mind-boggling to me. We go into page 6. We're talking about the defaulting on the line of credit, which I think becomes extremely poignant now that we start talking about how MRP has finagled this lawsuit between Michigan Republican Party Trust, Seymour Street LLC, and now Comerica Bank. That I hope everybody on your call tonight, Donna, and your podcast really realizes that these people have corporate savage lawyers that are going to absolutely destroy the party in this lawsuit and are going to go as hard-nosed, smash-mouth as you would expect a $2,000 an hour attorney to go. And that includes members, I guarantee, with subpoena and deposition of state committee, because you continue to let this go on in your name. And if you think that I'm lying, just wait. I haven't been wrong yet about anything that I've been here. I'm still here saying the same stuff. Nobody's suing me. You want to know why? Because the discovery would bury them, and I'm not lying. So the default on the line of credit thing is a real problem. This is the issue, though, and what I mean by it's a big problem is because it's a red herring, people. All right, it's a lie, right? The party is not defaulting on the line of credit. Kristina Karamo is not paying the bill. Okay, she's not paying the bill. The bill's $4,500 a month. All right, and here's another little secret for you. Okay. The party had put more money on the line of credit. They added $50,000 more dollars on the line of credit since Ron Weiser left office. Okay. This thing isn't going away. And in order to get the line of credit back in order, right? So the bank would just say, hey, you know what? For the next 14 months till you're out of here, Kristina Karamo, who hasn't answered any responses from the bank at all. She's been sent multiple notices, hasn't responded, right? Continues to obfuscate her authority and her obligations as chair. So if they paid tomorrow $17,000, the line of credit would be out of default. Did you just hear what I said?
I did.
That's in the Detroit News article. If you go all the way to the very bottom of that news article written by Craig Mauger, please do and read it. That's the statement from the attorney from the bank. If they pay November and October's payments that total $9,019 and the late fees of $707 and the December payment, then that would make the line of credit up to date. And then they could just continue to pay $5,000 a month. So she's letting the line of credit go into default literally because she's refusing to pay $5,000 a month. Okay. Can we just understand what's going on here and how childish this is? This is a party that's supposed to be raising at least, listen, I told Phil and Lori and everybody else, I knew out of the gate she wasn't going to raise any money, right? I knew she was going to have a struggle bus with it. I said, if she raised
why?
because she didn't do any of the work out of the gate, right? That woman never started calling businesses. There was no plan. Nobody followed up. You couldn't get emails. She was, everyone was cut out. It was, since the beginning, she's, the stories that I heard and testimony from witnesses about not the stuff that's in the report, because the stuff in the report is factual about damning evidence that's malfeasance and it's just behavior unbecoming the position. But the real gossipy stuff that's true, and it's been double and triple confirmed, some of it is just horrendous, man. About just blowing off appointments, laissez-faire attitude, rude to people, every time she's in a car, she's on the phone with Mike Labadie, like stuff that doesn't matter so much and is just background noise. But that stuff is all part of this. This is so childish. 17 grand, okay, literally. And then we don't have to go and file lawsuits on attorneys that are going to take our party's head off, right? And go and get all this splashed in the news because Dan Hartman thinks that he's the lawyers from Suits or something. Are we serious right now? These aren't serious people. So I'm just having a hard time with some of this stuff, as really it starts to set in for me. It's sad, man. It really bums me out because I cheered her on stage, dude. I cheer, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just, yeah, it's a real bummer. So I just want to go on this bottom kind of statement. And so, upon information and belief, the party has not cured the payment for the default of Comerica Bank, has graciously allowed, if true, Karamo has put the party at serious risk of an immediate collection action on Comerica Bank. If we do default on this, they're going to be savages in a separate thing, totally different from this building lawsuit nonsense, because they'll get a sheriff garnishment. And what they'll do is they could garnish all the accounts. And then every single dollar that's in all of our accounts basically has to go to the bank, which will wipe us out. And then the party will literally be bankrupt and there won't be a Republican Party anymore. And that bankruptcy is on your party's name for 10 years. I mean, I just hope that you understand. It's like everybody else's bankruptcy, people, right? Your ability to operate, your ability to take out credit, your ability to systematically function, your name in the community. People just won't do business with you. This is how serious this stuff is. We say that we love our party and we love our country and we're here for our kids. I'm pleading with you right now to understand, this is truth. Okay. This stuff is truth. And, what happens, she's willing to risk something that has that extreme of an outcome because she's not going to pay $17,000 when she's out there bragging that they just took a $260,000 loan that they're claiming they can do whatever they want with because it was legally taken. Can someone just circle the squares for me, please? These are these people's own words. All right. These are the documents they're providing to people. This is their budget committee documents. So the default of credit, the line of credit thing for me is a bone of contention because it started off the lies for me. And that was the lie that Ron Weiser left us with $200,000 in debt or $2 million in debt, and in actuality, he paid off $2.4 million in debt. In actuality, he paid off $2 million in debt, through the party's funds. And Kristina's acknowledged that, there's a clip out there that I know Jonathan Chapman has and a couple other people that has her basically telling people, answering a question at the Macomb County event where she talks about the fact that line of credit is the party's debt, right? She admits that, but now it's not her debt. It's the prior administration's debt. And because they left her saddled with it. And you know what we've done? So remember we talked about the receipt for Joe Moss and how then there wasn't a receipt, then there was a receipt, but you can't see the receipt because, they don't have the receipt, but now you can't see it because there's an NDA and the goalpost kept moving. So let's just go through the goalpost of the financial plan real quick, right? So we went from we're going to raise all of this money, we have a plan, to we didn't even start the plan, to now the reason that we can't raise money is because there's this guy out here that's telling everybody all this stuff, to now we have money, but we're not going to pay any of the stuff that's from before because that's not ours. I mean, think about Obama when he said hope and change, right? Hope and change, and what did he say? He said, we're going to radically transform America, right? That's what Michelle said, or somebody, Michael, whoever, one of them said that, right? And, we're going to radically transform America. the radical transformation, like that's what we're experiencing, right? And she said as much. We need to radically change the party. So this is the radical transformation, right? Sometimes you don't see what's coming, and you don't get what you think you're getting. And that's kind of been what every American's been through for the last 10 years. I think that we wake up every day, and every day we lose a little bit of, what our country was. And, and this is kind of what Kristina Karamo's administration has turned out to be, but in 9 short months. I mean, it went from being, very supportive and a lot of people cheering and a lot of energy and, finance this, we're going to do this, to now it's just like, the Republican Party, if you're not fighting every elected Republican, if you don't hate every rich person, right? If they're not all, evil people that want to make you eat bugs, every person who's got over, I don't know what the threshold in your bank account is to make you a bug eater pusher. Is it a couple million? I mean, does that make you bad now? Like, when does it start to get to, like, if you're a small business owner, like Warren Carpenter, and you take your own human agency that was given to you by God to do something that your heart calls you to do, because you see things and you have to say something when you see something, because that's what we're supposed to do if we're the party of law and order, that we get here, right? That we're in this situation where, like, we have to look at this thing in disbelief to say that, it's I don't know, guys. I'm so sorry. This is just so mind-boggling for me that, like, it's nuts that more people aren't understanding what's going on. So this big section here, Donna, we're an hour in. I'll go another half an hour and I'll wrap by then, I promise you. Because I know
I'm just going to keep the camera rolling. You can stay on as long as you want, because there's so many people that really want to know what's going on. And I am opposed to short interviews just because there's so much information going on. If people really care about this nation, they're going to take the time to get educated on what's actually happening so that they can talk about it with intelligence and not just say, yeah, we got a problem here. That's not good enough. Be able to defend your position on this, on what is wrong. And that way you can talk to other people and help educate them too on why certain things should just not happen. That's when you get in the fight. It's not just complaining about things. It's having an actual path to communicating what's actually going on so that you're helping with this effort.
Yeah. So, I would say that, page 8 now, so we're halfway through the document on the verbiage. So it says mismanagement of Mackinac Leadership Conference. And so this one is literally the reason that I'm sitting here with you guys and talking to you tonight, was because of kind of a series of calls and things that were raised to me that set off red flags that started me down this path where 3 months later, I'm sitting in this podcast with you tonight. And it was the fact that, I was asked to look at some stuff and be involved in it. And then as I did, red flags just started going off everywhere. And I just really want to kind of give a synopsis of what this is. So this is going to talk about how Mackinac is normally funded and what Mackinac really is, right? So in the past, Mackinac has been an event for state candidates to go up there and be seen as a leisurely event, right? With a specific type of messaging. So they didn't violate campaign finance law, so they could run these events through the administrative account, which would allow them to raise money from corporations in order to help pay for the event, right? And then they would have presidential candidates come in those cycle years, which are the big years, which is the year that just passed, right, to set us up for 24, before the primary phase. And the straw poll out of that is really a big deal. It's kind of like the first caucus, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's like the Iowa straw poll is kind of like the Mackinac Policy Conference or the Mackinac Conference straw poll. So if you type in Mackinac Conference straw poll in Google, or Mackinac Leadership Conference in Google, like the first 20 drops on it are all the straw poll results from years, right? Or talks about presidential candidates and their placements in the straw polls. It's that big of a thing. So,
and you got to be careful with that, because when I was running, there was electioneering that was committed with a straw poll up in Mackinac Island.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah, I understand.
That's not okay.
I'm not here to talk about what people are doing. I'm just here to tell you. I'm just here to tell you, like, this is background on what the conference traditionally has been, right? And then what Kristina kind of turned it into. And I understand, right? We all like to have parties, and we like to have parties with our friends to show everyone that we can throw a good party. That's basically what she did with all of the money that was used for the conference. Now, she did have a couple speakers here, and they're from, I would say from elected side. Vivek was there, right? He's running for president. So I guess, that's what you could consider a federal purpose. But because there was no other presidential candidates, it could be argued that was an in-kind donation to Vivek because it was only him that was there. I mean, that's, that's a stretch. I don't think that's true. That's me being hyperbolic, but what did happen is I found out that they ran everything through the federal account, which means that it's restricted to hard dollar limits. And because they had state candidates there, technically they have to do a Fed state share on that, which is kind of complex to do because the accounting is tricky to make sure that the expenditures are evenly distributed for the appropriate amount of how much time each one of those would, there's a line between state accounts and Fed accounts, and what share of those were taken up. It's an undertaking. It's an accounting kind of nightmare to do stuff like that. So the administrative count is the way that it had been done in the past. And the reason it's done like that is because that's the way to do it without incurring this kind of situation where, you get Jim Kopis in trouble and you get everybody else in trouble, and, everybody's money goes into a federal account. Now they, it lowers their ability to donate. And, because it went into the federal account, if you thought that you were going to that conference and you didn't want everyone in the world to know that you were going there because you don't like Big Brother knowing everything that you do in your life, well, unfortunately, now that money went into the Fed account, you have to sign in that you paid, $2,000 to go to Mackinac. Everyone's going to know what you paid for your hotel rooms and your meal packages and everything else. And that's not really the party protecting your data or your privacy either. The party is supposed to be respectful of those kinds of things. And I think that's one of the small things that gets lost in this. The bigger problem is because it was ran like that, there's very strict restrictions on how the money can be spent and used. And the accounting nightmare that they've got themselves in with some of this stuff, it's the violations are criminal, and one example of just how loose and fast this thing was ran was, 2 weeks before the event, they were in such trouble that I know they were scrambling to pull money out of whatever account they could, because they told me they only had $30,000 in between all the accounts. So how do you, and they were facing about $120,000 in expenditures if they couldn't get the hotel to agree to give them more time, or Carrie Lake or somebody else to pay them later. Like if they had to have come up with the hard dollars back when I had my first conversations 2 weeks before the event with Kristina and Joel Studebaker and Mike Labadie, with Lori Skibo and Phil Halloran on the phone call with me, and Deb Ross was there too. Then there was a possibility that the event couldn't go off. And at that point in time, I started talking about what you would do. Like, you would remove a speaker. You would remove Dinesh because he's more expensive than Carrie. I think Carrie's a bigger drive. You start getting into the triage of the event. Now we're trimming the event down. And I think people forget that, in all this, she canceled Dinesh the day of the event and didn't tell anybody. I mean, she knew.
Canceled what? Say that again.
They canceled Dinesh like the day of the event. And like, she knew. She didn't tell anybody that she wasn't gonna be able to pay him. That's what that was. He did not show up because of like some like this or that. Like he didn't show up because she didn't pay him, and like she didn't tell anybody. That's the reason. That's like, that's not being honest. That's
so
not.
A lot of people thought they were going to go up there and
I mean, what if you came there because Dinesh was your guy, dude? Like that was like your jam, and that's like you were excited because you love 2,000 Mules. Like you love some of his other stuff. You respect him for everything that the guy's been through, whatever his, like, what if like he was like the draw for you, and then like you go up there and then you find out that day, like just by happenstance, like, oh yeah, never mind, like, he's not going to be here. Like something came up. Like, I'll tell you what came up. The checkbook came up, and then there was nothing in it. That was the deal. So I just want to encapsulate this thing with Mackinac and the malfeasance, and not really understanding how you're supposed to operate an event like this, which is clearly shown because they ran it through the Fed account, which is basically inexplicable because it just makes everything horrible and the wrong way to do it. Like it's there, no right-minded person in campaign finance would ever do what they did. And let me tell you something. I already know what their answer is. Their answer is, we're going to do things our way because, we're not going to do things the old way because the old way is the globalist deep state. Like that's the kind of answer you're going to get to people if you just said what I said to someone who supports her and is entrenched in some of these positions. So I'm asking these people to really start listening to what I'm saying, right? That's not an answer. Okay. That's not an argument. That's not combating a point. And that's not having intellectual honesty or integrity. And to get back to that thing, like, we need to have a moment where we reunite around what truth is in our party and in our movement, right? And I think that these are the things that we need to understand.
Right. Well, there's a statement in here that Lois Meljack was supposed to be paid and never received payment.
Correct. That's where I was getting to next. Yeah. So the crazy thing about that is, so Lois actually was looking at the FEC report when it came out, right? Because she was, spearheading Mackinac at that time earlier, and was kind of unceremoniously let go, and
and replaced with somebody.
No. Yeah. Even before that, like, what they do is they pre-bunk you. Okay, this is how they got rid of Dawn. This is how they got rid of Danny. This is how they got rid of Lois. They pre-bunk you. They go out and they start spreading rumors in their little groups. And I know that they do this because it happened to me. I was siloed with information when I was 9th Congressional District Chair. I didn't really realize that a lot of that information was being curated, okay, and then fed to me to help steer me to say, like, oh yeah, that person's a baddie, like, discount what they say. And that's the kind of chasm. That's what we're doing right now. This is kind of the battle for hearts and minds that our party is going to have to go through until we get some honesty and some intellectual integrity to have the conversation, right? So Lois checked the FEC report, and it said that they gave her this $8,000 check. Well, she never received the check, right? So that's a major violation. Misappropriating, funds to say, like, oh yeah, we sent this $8,000 check to Lois. Well, the $8,000 check is in the bank statements, just so you guys know, and it's cited. See that right there? See, it says, there's a little campaign thing. It'll somewhere on there. There's a site that takes you to the bank statements where it shows that it was a check that was paid, but nobody knows who it was paid to. And the reason that nobody knows who it was paid to is because nobody on the budget committee has ever seen a check register that you could tell you all the checks that were written and where the checks have went or have reconciled the checks.
And nobody sees a problem with this here to be screaming and yelling about this.
No, I'm the deep state. I'm trying to take the party down. I'm a tool for the globalists. I'm trying to give you people an education, right? It's the same thing I did when I was district chair, when everyone supported me as district chair, and I got up there and you guys all clapped because I was teaching you. And you know better because I told you, right? And now they think that, like, they've learned everything and everything that I'm saying is a lie or whatever else. Like, half those people are only here to support Kristina because of a lot of the things that I shared with him on how to do stuff within the political realm, right? So I don't say that I know everything, but I know enough to be dangerous. And when I don't know, I go out and search the most high-paid attorney that I can possibly afford to give me the best legal advice to put me in a position to be a person who does understand. And that's what I did in this report. I did it for you, the delegate, right? That's why you guys got it first. So I hope that you guys are understanding the kind of stuff. If you're tuning in tonight to learn this, and I know I'm probably boring the pants off a lot of people, but I told Donna that I wanted to go through this thing kind of with a fine-tooth comb so people understand.
I think it's an important process. I really do.
Yeah, because it's such a heady piece of material that it's too intimidating to start reading it, right? You just won't, right? Maybe it's better just to have it playing in the background as you're kind of putting your kids down to bed at 9:30 at night. And then, if something pops up and you hear something great, or doing whatever you do to wind down. I hope that people understand that. So I just want to jam through page 9 real quick so we can get to the back half of this stuff, which is, some damning stuff. So this is kind of about corporate sponsorships, the Fed account. The Fed account cannot have corporate sponsorships, but on the website, they were taking corporate sponsorships. I know they had corporate sponsorships, and even if they're in kind, they can't do that because the Fed account can't accept corporate dollars, right? The hard money account can't do that. So every single one of those businesses is now in jeopardy of a campaign finance violation. It's a violation of the law, right? And what do we say for the party of law and order, blah, 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 blah. We've talked about this. Like, those 12 sponsors that donated their money unknowingly to a Fed account committed a campaign finance violation. I'm not saying that they're going to be held liable because they probably didn't know or this or that, but there's absolutely a possibility that they could. So why would someone do business with a chairwoman who runs an organization that knowingly or unknowingly is putting small businesses in a situation where they could have legal liability just for trying to sponsor an event? I mean, like,
unbelievable.
We just have to start getting honest about what this stuff really means in the real world, okay? So remember, she said, and I want to go back to the fundraising again, right? She said that, remember, these are her words, we just have to build trust with the business community, and then the money will come. It says it right in her plan that's in this document, okay? And so she put the small businesses that she was trying to collect, the ones that actually did step up to sponsor the very first batch, right, that came in for corporate sponsorships, she put them in a situation where they violated campaign finance laws and could be held liable. The very first attempt that she got to corporate fundraise, she puts these people in harm's way. How is that building trust in the party?
Yeah,
like it blows me away.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hard enough to survive in the climate it is right now as a small to medium business, because the corporations are just eating everything up. I mean, this is one of those, this really is one of those things that has been such a failing in our government, because I do believe that a lot of them are getting paybacks and such from these big corporations. I mean, you look at Granholm getting a $1.6 million gain on a EV stock trade and such, and the amount of money that
what about Nikki Haley? Nikki Haley had $100,000 in her bank account when she left the Trump administration. Now she's got $8.5 million 2.5 years later, 3 years later. What is going on in this world? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they're all getting these kickbacks, and I mean, it's one of those.
And listen, and the funny thing is, Donna, I'm going to cut you off. The funny thing is that who Kristina Karamo is trying to convince you, the viewer at home, that me or the grassroots people that are pissed about this, that are learning this stuff and helping develop this information, to inform you, the viewer, that we are some deep state ploy, that we're the ones that somehow there's $8 million in my bank account. Like, man, people, if you have any idea, like how many times I've lost everything and had to start over in my life, and what that had looked like, and how much I've had to scrape and claw to get every single thing that I've been able to acquire. And now I try to give as freely as possible to people around me, because that's not the answer in life. You have no clue why I do the things I do in my life. And maybe that's why I'm the one that's on this camera now telling you the things I'm telling you. It's insulting to the grassroots to say that, that the grassroots were good enough when she was swaying 80% of the majority vote against Annie Delisle for secretary. But now they're deep state Marxist plants who celebrate the starving children of Michigan because they want answers on budget transparency and want to be able to speak on a call. I mean, let's talk about that Overton window, right? How it shifts, right? It's like the Joe Moss receipts, people, right? First it's, oh, we got, there's no receipts, or there's no transaction. Then there's a transaction, but we don't have a receipt. Then there's a receipt, but you can't see it. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing. This is a slow walk. This is a slow walk.
Dividing things up into groups and having 1s through 4s, so that this is like a marketing play instead of just transparency and finding out what do people want, instead of to serve them, instead of using the information as the information into a manipulative state to just continue to garner power. And they're using people's emotions. This is what I see everywhere. They're using emotions and our trigger buttons. They're pushing those triggers all the time to just it's kind of like herding cattle. They're using the emotional triggers in order to do that. We have to be very, very careful with that. And also, I think people need to have background checks. I've done some background checks on people, and we have to know who we're talking to. You need to look at that. You need to find out, do these people have any aliases? Do they have connections to other organizations? Like what is the one that Kristina has out in Nevada? It's like
unauthorized. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that at the end. That's the end of the report. That's like page 13.
So I jumped ahead. Then.
No, you're good. You're good.
I didn't read it, so that was not intentional.
No, you're good. Just to burn through this, kind of what this is kind of a synopsis of of like, okay, after Mackinac and the fallout of that, like when you start looking at everything is a mess. Like the accounts are hopelessly unreconcilable. Even the budget committee is confused about like what the governing group of Karamo has done. And it says, unsurprisingly, in August 2020, on August 28th, 23, the FEC issued a letter requesting further information to the party's most recent report. Despite the FEC giving the party a deadline of October 2nd to respond, the party has not submitted any response to the FTC. They did submit a response, but they only said, like, we're going to send you some stuff when they missed the deadline. So
what page is that on? So that is it 10 or where is it? Because I'm looking at Jim Copus.
Copus is next. Yep, Copus is next.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and then we get into how at the beginning of the administration, everybody that when Kristina won was told that they were going to get a job with possible benefits and this and that and the other. Right, there was big promises made by her to Danny and Lois and Dawn and other people that were hired. Lois Majak especially, right? But nobody got a paycheck because Kristina said for months, I remember, if you guys can remember this, she was saying like 6 or 7 weeks after that, like, she was denied access to the bank accounts for weeks and weeks. And really it was only 10 days to 2 weeks, I think, total, until she had full control of all the bank accounts, which was another lie that was told. And manipulated and pushed out into the grassroots to make you think that, the former administration were boogeymen who were keeping you away from, all of the money, which again kind of shows you like, she was saying that like, they won't give us our money, like, well, she didn't raise that money, but, she wants the money part of it. But then, the debt's not hers. Like, that's not how a two-way street works. But it goes on to talk about what they did to some of the employees and, and Lois specifically. She was told that they would pay, that they couldn't pay her back pay as an employee because the accounting firm or whoever they're using for payroll wouldn't let them do that. Okay, Tryon wouldn't let them give them back pay. I tell you this, I own a business. There's a lot of guys out here that own businesses and women, right? We're all business people, in some degree, and we all have had jobs, right? If you work at a job and that job doesn't pay you back, okay, or doesn't pay you, and they say, okay, we're going to pay you. When you get that first check, right, and you're a hired employee, like they don't give you like the lump sum, right? You get a big check, and then all your taxes get taken out. And the reason they didn't want to do this is because they were going to incur a little tax penalty, which probably would have been in the neighborhood of maybe $1,000 or $2,000. So what they did instead is they violated employment law by making her a 1099 employee, and then the following week, actually what they did is they paid her 2 paychecks as an employee, and then gave her a huge lump sum and said, I'm sorry, this is going to have to be 1099. You're responsible for your own taxes on this one. And then, I guess they said that they gave her a big $8,000 check that, now we know actually wasn't hers either. And where did that one go? So with Lois, there was a lot of stuff. I mean, they really did a great disservice to a very sweet woman who is extremely hardworking, and is extremely versed in what she does. And
Lois is amazing. Yeah. She is totally amazing.
If I don't mention her by name, I'll be remiss, because that woman has been a saint in this, and her name has been maligned. And this is another thing that I want all of the delegates to understand, right? This is a woman who, if you saw her on the street, would remind you of the sweetest moments that you shared with your grandmother, because she's that kind of a woman. And you have this KK governing group that literally went out and personally attacked this woman, and she has been silent the whole time, you guys. She never came out. She never went and said a bunch of stuff. She never got all right. She's been silent, and she told her story, and she's been waiting for this moment, for people to understand really what transpired and how her name has been trashed in this scenario. And I just asked that the delegates out there that are watching this understand that, like, if that was a family member of yours, if that was your grandmother, or if that was your mother, if it was your wife, if it was your daughter, that you saw these people do this to this woman and trash her name the way that they did, and foist all the blame for all their own malfeasance. I mean, we already know that the business plan didn't get off the ground, right? Because the woman that was supposed to handle that fell on some hard times or something happened, but there was no communication. Kristina never reaches out to anybody. She never calls anybody back, right? All the people that gave witness testimony all said the same thing. She doesn't return phone calls.
What's really disturbing with Lois that
right?
I heard.
I had a conversation with Phil. Yeah, I had a private conversation with Phil Halloran right before I resigned as district chair when all this stuff was kind of going on. Rob Steele did an event out in KPAC, and I was driving home from it, and I was talking with him. And it was when I was trying to convince him that some of this stuff was really serious. And his exact words to me were, she might have the worst case of undiagnosed ADD that he's ever seen in his entire life, coupled with being the most unorganized person that he's ever met. Right.
So can I
I want to hit this home. That's okay. Phil O'Halloran saying this, right? I'm not saying he's giving us medical opinion. It's not what I'm saying about Dr. Phil. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that like we need to go back to this promise and this conversation about intellectual honesty and sacred cows and what we're protecting. Okay. And what's law and order, what's truth and what's right. What they did to this woman, I'm furious about. And I hope that she gets to exact every single piece of retribution that's owed to her to protect her name and restore it to where it was before all this crap befell her, because she's a sweet, sweet woman.
She's a very nice person. And I tell you what, they cut her hours and she kept working.
Yeah.
Because she believed in this party. And
she gave everything for Kristina.
She gave everything.
I gave everything for her. My money, my time, my trucks. This is what people don't understand. They milk you to there's nothing left of you and you're useful. And then they pre-bunk you. They go out into the circles and they tell horrible stories about you and how bad you are and what a bad person you are, until enough people say, oh, he can't be trusted, don't talk to him. And then that's what stops this divide. That's why you can't ever hear what I have to say, and I can't ever hear what you have to say. And this is a division tactic, and this is what's destroying our party. It's because we're not being intellectually honest about the truth of really the status of what's going on.
Well, I really want people to think about this. I mean, think about this as if you're somebody you cared about, an aunt or a grandma, was working for something that they really believed in. Yeah. And the party had promised them a job, and all of a sudden they cut the payment in half. And because she believed so much in this party, she worked more than full time to try to make this work. And then they
for free. Like those hours were for free. Yeah.
For free. And broomed her to put a felon in that position. It's shocking. Absolutely shocking.
And then it bumps down into the bottom of 10 is finally, it's well known that Mrs. Karamo, on behalf of the Michigan Republican Party, contracted with an organization to have Jim Caviezel speak at the conference. Mrs. Karamo agreed the party would pay $110,000 for the speaking engagement. As an initial matter, this amount for a speaker, the Republican Leadership Conference, is unprecedented. So never before have they spent as much money as they spent on a leadership conference for speakers and for like entertainment, right? Because the candidates would always come and it was your time to vet them and rub hands with them, and they had to walk around town and they couldn't get away from you. You're trapped on an island with these people. And that was part of the magic of Mackinac, was that like all of the electeds couldn't get away. They had to answer questions because the only place they could run to, they're on an island, what are they going to keep riding the bike around the circle? Like that's not how it works, Yeah, I'm seriously, right? So that was part of the magic of what Mackinac was supposed to be. But like she turned it into a party. And like, I can't stress this enough. Like it had no political purpose, but it was ran through the federal account like it was. Right. And so I want you to think about this. So they spent an unprecedented amount of money for a speaker. The first time in history they spent this amount of money, and they are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So again, I want to go back to the primal fundraising thing, right? Where she spent $26,000 to raise $1,200, right? At a time that she's basically bankrupt and doesn't have any money or any money coming in. There's only $30,000 in the account. She goes out and takes out a loan, quote unquote. First, it was an in-kind donation. That's what she told everybody. She was telling the entire budget committee it was an in-kind donation. She was out there lying about this. It's on video. If she wants to say that's not true, I've got the tape. Okay. And then it became magically a loan during my call with her 2 weeks before Mackinac. And then now we know that, we took out a loan to pay Jim Caviezel $110,000, which we still haven't paid back. And unfortunately probably puts maybe Mr. Caviezel or Mr. Kopas's wife, Lynette Wilson's trust, in some serious hot water for campaign finance violations, And
because they actually paid the bill, didn't they? On a loan, they gave a loan, so it was Kopas's wife.
But on top of all how bad that is, because Kopas has some real liability, some criminal liability here, and we'll discuss that a little bit further at the bottom. But this is a time where the party needed to conserve funds and really engage in grassroots kind of bootstrapping, if that's what she was really talking about, right? If we don't need money, right? We don't need money, we're going to run this party and, we'll figure it all out or whatever, the Good Neighbor program is going to save us or whatever she's talking about now. I want you to understand, at a time the party had no money, she spent $110,000 for a guy to give an hour and a half speech.
This is inconceivable to me that this could that anyone would ever think that this was a good idea. And you know what? It's a bigger question that I have is, why would Caviezel even accept this? I mean, because
they're going around, but they're going around giving the air that everything is okay, right? Listen, everybody thought everything was okay. I think that's why in the beginning nobody really questioned her.
I don't really care, if anybody has gives a crap about this nation, you don't charge large speaker fees. It's you make your money elsewhere, not off of the political system. This is a problem that I have with the whole thing, right from top to bottom. The entire political political system has turned into an industry where everybody's making money off of this in every different direction.
But I want to hit this point. But I want to hit this point home before we're done here, because I want to juxtapose this, right? So we talked about Lois, and her story is so compelling, and I hope everyone really gets to understand this. I really do. Okay.
Lois is a hero.
Yeah, I really do. And so I just want to say this, okay? With that being said, so we went out and paid $110,000 for Jim Caviezel, so much money that we had to borrow it because we couldn't afford to pay it. At the time, we only had $30,000 in our bank. So this move put us further in debt and really is not protecting or maximizing the funds that have been entrusted to the party. At the exact same time, the woman that I explained before, right, she was also committed and contracted $30,000, Lois, right, for her services and helping coordinate all the Mackinac Leadership Conference. And she's the one that got all the speakers, guys. I don't care what anybody says, it was her. Okay, stop it. It's lies. It was Lois, right? We've got the factual information. She got the call. She got everything. So not only did they pay this guy $110,000 to give you an hour and a half speech, the working class woman, right? Who's probably in her late 50s, early 60s, beautiful Lois, or beautiful Lois,
Grandma Lois.
They stiffed her $30,000 for all the work she paid in, and the bow that they put on that was they destroyed her name before they went around, and they destroyed her name by going around and telling everyone how horrible she was, and then they fired her afterwards. So when she got out, anything she said would be looked at as adversarial or in response to the termination. This is what I mean by these people are running an op on you, and this is a destruction mechanism for the party. Like, these are true.
They have this to do with everybody. They discredit everyone.
So, I mean, let's juxtapose it to Trump's message of a populist, or even to her message of elites, right? She pays this elite speaking fee, but then stiffs the worker. Okay. She pays the elite speaking fee, but then stiffs the worker, the volunteer, the one that you claim, and I know this because it's testified to, and everybody knows this, who was working for free to answer the phones. They stiffed that woman, and then they sullied her name, and they kicked her out, and she hasn't said anything, and it's heartbreaking what happened there. So
it is absolutely heartbreaking.
The report continues. Yeah, the report goes on now to talk about the campaign finance violations of how the Caviezel loan works, right? And how you can't give as an individual over $10,000 into the FEC account and it talks about the Lynette Wilson Trust. This one has really went over a lot, so I hope that people understand it. But at the very bottom, there's this little cute thing, and this is how Troy surmised this, and he asked me about this. So what do you think about this? I said, yes, that people will understand this. And my question is, and I'll ask this to you, Donna. Donna, do you know who Michael Cohen is?
No.
Okay, Trump's attorney before he was president, right? Do you know who Stormy Daniels is?
Of course. No, I didn't. Michael Cohen associated with President Trump. Yes, I wasn't making the jump here from the state of Michigan. President.
Yeah. So I want to explain the Caviezel thing in a real quick sentence so everyone understands the severity of what it means. So Michael Cohen was Trump's former attorney, right? On his own volition, right, outside of President Trump, like Lynette Wilson did outside of Michigan GOP. She made a contribution directly to a third party, right? Or she's the third party making a contribution to the Catholic Speakers Organization. That loan from Lynette Wilson did not go into the MIGOP, and then MIGOP paid the Catholic speaker fee. It went from Lynette Wilson to the Catholic speaker fee, which is exactly what happened with Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, on his own volition, took the money and gave it to Stormy Daniels, right? But then he claimed it was on behalf of President Trump. So he committed the violation, and ultimately, I hope that you guys understand this. He didn't go to prison for lying to Congress and all that stuff. He went to prison for knowingly and willfully violating federal contribution limits in 52 USC 30116 by arranging a 6-figure in-kind donation to the campaign, President Trump's campaign, which is exactly what Lynette Wilson did with the Catholic Speakers Catholic Speakers speaking fee thing organization for MIGOP campaign Fed account, quote unquote. It is the exact same thing, and it is serious, and it is prison. Like, he was in prison. If you look at his record, that's the charge. Okay, so people that are telling me this isn't serious, and I don't know, I've had it up to here. I mean, anybody that knows this stuff is like, how, like, everyone's pulling their hair out, and the only people that aren't getting this are the delegates. They're just not, like, they think it's like a ploy, or well,
I'm going to tell you what I heard when I was at that President Trump, I call it the Mishan-Matic electioneering rally in Washington. I heard so many people say, hey, we're just doing this to make the delegates feel good, so they'll vote with who we want in. And right, I sat there and I was like, what kind of weaponized nonsense is this? This is literally trying to convince them to vote with a party, to collectively bring this together, rather than to have the delegates represent their constituents. It's upside down. It's backwards. The whole thing is backwards from the way it's supposed to work. And people are going to have to start thinking for themselves, because this sure looks like a cult to me.
Yeah,
it's a cult mentality.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? So, like, you can't make an informed judgment until you have the facts. I'm trying to provide the people the facts. Right. So now that we're on page 10 at the very bottom here, and it says the party's mishandling of the former headquarters. I want to go through this section, and then this is probably the first time I'm going to talk through some of these footnotes that are on the bottom of document 10 that you can. These are click through links, right? So you can click on it, and it'll take you right to the FEC, where it'll tell you about all of the things that I made as accusations. So you can see that what I'm saying comports with what the federal government tells you are the rules, right? And so if people are continuing to tell you after that, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about, like, then again, like, we need to come to that determination. Like, are we having intellectual honesty here, that, like, we know that this is the law? Why do you keep saying that this isn't a violation of it, when clearly we can say that this happened and this happened? We have the receipt, we have the cash check, we have the contract, we have who signed the contract, we know who was paid by the contract, and we know that there's precedent for a prison term based around the exact same circumstances. How is this any different? And they can't explain it. And so when I told people that, and I asked people, and I'm gonna look at the camera, and I'm gonna say this again, right? This is very important. How many criminal violations of the law would it take for you to say that you can no longer support this administration? Is it one clear violation of the law? Because that's in here. Is it 2 clear violations of the law that could risk people at harm, civilly, financially, or with jail? Those are in here. Is it 5? Yes, there's 5 that are in here, right? Taken to the conclusion with the facts and based upon belief and information provided to us, those things are in here. And this goes to the question, we need to ask that question. Are we being honest? Are we the party of law and order? Are we going to claim the moral high ground? Are we going to unite around truth, or are we not? And this isn't a personal thing. This is just a play-by-play. Like, if you're watching ESPN The Ocho, of me telling you, like, this is what's transpired, based upon what everyone that was at the game provided in documents, receipts, and testimony. So this part about the building is, I think, is a little bit more prescient with the new matters with Dan Hartman filing the lawsuit, but this is kind of how it starts, right? So it's widely known that Ms. Karamo chose not to use the party's former headquarters owned by Seymour Street LLC, but rather than cooperate with the owners of the former headquarters on how to transition the party to a new location. Ms. Karamo engaged in activity ranging from indifference to outright hostility. For example, without notifying the owners, Ms. Karamo allowed the electricity to be shut off. She didn't pay the bill. She didn't get the bill. She didn't pay the bill. You know, when the bill, like she was getting the mail and didn't pay the bill. The locks on the building are electronic. So when she didn't pay the bill, the electricity got shut off. The contents were left open to the public. So putting the building's assets at risk and failing to even give the owners the common courtesy of notifying them, the electricity was shut off. She didn't even tell the trust or anybody. You know, this is really inconsistent with the fiduciary responsibility of any officer of any business, you know, or especially of the party chair, you know, and this definitely isn't being a quote unquote good neighbor, right? The owners discovered the situation only after the police called them. You know, so, you know, that's some pretty damning stuff, but this is even worse, I think. And I think that people need to understand this. In addition to what I just told you up top, okay, upon information and belief, the Karamo administration unilaterally canceled the insurance policy on the building without discussing the issue with the owners. To make matters worse, when the owners were finally informed by the insurance company that the coverage had been canceled, they were also told that the policy's balance had been depleted, although there's no documentation as to where these funds went, which means there was a refund, okay? There was a refund, you know, that the party received the policy balance, which was in the thousands of dollars, and inappropriately retained it. Ultimately, the owners had to, the trust, again, like, you know, those darn globalists got to keep paying, you know, she thinks that like, it's like some free ride, you know, they're paying all the maintenance. They're servicing the building because she either shut the lights off or stole the insurance money, you know? And when I say stole, because the party also does the insurance, but what she did is she canceled it, but it's within the trust. It's a whole situation. So further, the administration recently promoted a plan whereby they had to force the sale of the building, right? So we all know this. This is now the lawsuit. So I'm not going to go into the lawsuit stuff so much because I think it's going to be really talked about ad nauseum at people that are more successful than me. We really went over it in the Rescue Michigan podcast last night. But this really talks about how you can't sell the building to pay off the debt. And the reason you can't is because it's political debt. All right. Even if Comerica said, okay, you sell the building and we'll take that money, it would be a felony, right? In order to do that, because it would violate the campaign finance laws, because a corporation can't donate that money to pay off state party debt. It has to be raised by hard dollars. That's why you have to fundraise out of your debt cycles. And every administration, Kristina Karamo, as you gaslight the entire state of Michigan about this, leaves the party with a deficit because the party raises money. Just because you couldn't doesn't mean it's everybody else's fault. I'm sick of this, right? We just got to be honest, intellectual honesty. We talked about this. I don't want to get aggravated about it or raise my voice or get too excited, but I just want to hit that point home. And, you know, they can't sell the building anyways because they don't own the building. So it's like a double strike. It's basically like saying, like, listen, Dan Gilbert's got this beautiful house. You know what? I'm going to go to the bank and just tell them, hey, listen, I own this house. I'm going to sell it. And I want you to give me a loan. And, you know, you can just use that house over there as collateral. But you don't own that house. Yeah, I know. But I put it on a bank statement that I filed. And it's in my, it's in my personal financial statement that I put into the bank. You know, yeah, I own it. But you don't have any title on it, sir. Yeah, I know. But you know what? It's because of the globalists and the deep state. So really, I own the house. I want to sell Dan Gilbert's house. You need to give me a loan. I mean, like, just the legal theory on all this stuff is so fanciful. It's crazy. And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, right? One of my favorite movies. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
You're in politics. We all feel like we're taking crazy pills. We can't even relate to this stuff.
Yeah. And so, and then I want to talk about this too. So, you know, it talks about, you know, where it's a felony to use the proceeds from a corporation to pay off political debt. And then it goes on to say that in 2003, the legislature passed an amendment. This was a carve out passed by the state of Michigan for both parties, Republican and Democratic parties, okay, to be exempt for the purchase of a construction a purchase or renovation of one or more facilities in Ingham County so they could have proximity to the Capitol, right? To be close to legislatures and party leaders, right? So they could have their offices there. And so they did a carve out to help the parties. This was passed in 2003 of the legislature and signed into law. And that's what facilitated the ability for a corporation to buy a building for the respective political parties, because it's illegal. Because it's illegal for a corporation to do that. It's a felony for a corporation to give money like that to assist a party like that, right? You can't do that. So literally, the only way that this could happen was the carve out that was passed by the law. Now they're saying, oh yeah, but if we sell it, then we can pay the debt with it. And I said, well, no, the carve out says nothing about you being able to sell the building that you bought through the carve out and now being able to use that for political purposes, because that's really what it is. Debt has a political purpose. Whether that purpose was spent in the past or you plan on spending it for the future, it still does contain a political purpose. And you can't spend it for state regulated political purpose. It's against the law. They would be committing a felony. Every lawyer knows this. It's blowing my mind that they keep telling delegates this, and there's all these people out there that the same people that are saying the same things, and they just don't know. They're not being intellectually honest. They're not being transparent. And they've got their head buried in the sand. So he goes on to talk a little bit more about that. And then it goes into kind of the value of the building and what they're trying to get for it. But again, now that that's in the lawsuit, I think a lot of that stuff's going to take off. And I encourage people, as the lawsuit does take off, to refer back to this report, because it's going to have a bunch of the source documents in it that kind of tell you how you got here, right? It'll talk to you about, that they could have paid $17,000 and then we wouldn't even be in court and the line of credit would be in good standing. And, and then the building would still be there, not as an asset of Kristina's, but the problem with that is then that means that she would have to pay the debt that she has incurred as the chair. And she refuses to do that. She's turning us into the welfare party, people. That's the Overton window of the Joe Moss receipt again, right? It went from we're going to raise the money to, well, we didn't really raise a lot of money to now we can't raise money. It's everybody's fault to we need to sell other people's assets. We need to sell other people's assets to pay our bills, right? Do you understand what that is? That doesn't sound like a Republican point of view. That sounds like a liberal point of view. That sounds like a nanny state point of view, right? What happened to our bootstraps? I just want people to let some of this stuff wash over you. So this last section is really good at the bottom of page 12, and it's lack of transparency and operating outside the party process. And the reason that this is so important is because I think that by the end of this, we'll be able to surmise upon belief and information that the party is not operating inside the bylaws. And because the party is operating outside of the bylaws, I think that at some point in time when investigations come, they'll be denied safe harbor. So let's just talk about what some of that looks like. So, despite committing to run the party with transparency in a manner that restores trust, Ms. Karamo has done the opposite. She created a small governing group of individuals who make all party decisions and direct all staff and volunteers. This group includes Kristina Karamo, Mike Labadie, Joel Studebaker, Jim Kopis, Dan Hartman. I would also say Phil O'Halloran is involved in that group, and now Lori Skibo as chief of staff. These individuals had no prior experience with operating a state political party. I know that for a fact with Phil and Lori because they were friends of mine. We worked together and I knew what they were competent at and what they weren't. They had no clue what was going on with campaign finance, either one of them. And they have caused significant concerns among party members. For example, Mike Labadie has no title with the party, yet he is known to have major influence over all of Ms. Karamo's decision-making. This is an absolute fact because we have people that have been in the car ride for her for hours and hours and hours and spent months and months with her at her side as basically an assistant. And every time she was anywhere, she was on the phone with this guy, going into a trance as he kind of told her what to say. Also, Kopis has been sued over fraudulent real estate transactions. Dan Hartman has a history of contributing to Democrats, which is true. And is currently subject to a complaint filed with the Michigan Attorney Grievance Commission for violations of Michigan rules of professional conduct and has been fined tens of thousands of dollars by Michigan courts. I know what everyone's going to say. Our court systems are corrupt and this and that and this and that. And what I will say is this. Okay, maybe that's true. But where there's this much smoke, right, are we going to continue to believe and go down rabbit holes and say, oh, there's this huge, this is why I said we got to start having intellectual honesty. Not everything is a conspiracy, Donna, okay? Sometimes people are just bags of poop, all right? It just is what it is, right? They've got a history of malfeasance and bankruptcy and poor decisions, and they're in their job, their commissions are filing complaints against them. Maybe it's just they're not great at what they do, or they're not honest people, right? If you're getting sued and you're getting things filed against you over fraudulent real estate transactions, you're probably not a great guy, right? If you're buying 12 hookers and you're $100,000 behind in your child support payments, and you're a convicted felon 10 days before the Mackinac Policy Conference, and you're taking pictures with Carrie Lake, but a month later as a felon on probation in the state of Ohio, you're waving guns at an auction, which is a federal crime. That is a federal offense, Robert Owens. And I hope your probation officer is watching, right? Then you should go to jail. You should go to jail, right? So this is the background on who these people are. This is not the group of individuals to restore trust in the party. That Ms. Karamo, as chair of the party, would create this group of people shows judgment that is at least poor and is at worst dangerous. And I think that's the moment that we're starting to find ourselves in, is the dangerous point, right? And it goes into her leadership style next. And this is the point that you were talking about earlier, Donna, about being an authoritarian. So authoritarian leadership. According to the Oxford Review Encyclopedia, the term authoritarian refers to any situation where a leader keeps hold of as much power and authority as possible. Authoritarian leaders tend to keep all decision-making authority to themselves. The intention behind most authoritarian leaders is to retain total control. And they usually require unquestioning obedience and compliance. Anyone failing to comply or become disobedient will likely be threatened or actually subject to some form of punishment, like Miss Majak, right? Who was systematically character assassinated before being summarily relieved of her duties, and then, quietly trashing and whispering about how everything that happened was her fault. Does Kristina Karamo take responsibility for anything in her life? I mean, she doesn't even pay her parking tickets. I don't even think she has a license right now. I'd probably look into that. Okay, sorry, I don't want to get personal, but like some of this stuff is like, it is personal for me, because I know these people. I know what they've been put through. It's horrible, right? So it talks about how she's ruling over the party, and it talks about how they're operating outside of the bylaws, that all these people, including Lois, Dan, or Dawn, Danny, Matt Johnson, all these people that have resigned from committees. It goes into, it talks about Jessica Bearfield and Dan Couture, and all these people that have had their names trashed, their intentions, their intentions questioned, and their motives questioned as being, deep state plants, right? Literally grassroots people that are just citizens, man. Like, these are the same people that would be standing next to you at a rally. If you didn't know who the heck they were, I guarantee sometime in the last 2 years, if you're a super activist, like these people that are all deep staters, probably you had a cup of coffee with at some point in time and you didn't even know it. That's how ludicrous all this stuff is. So it says, further, Ms. Karamo's response to anyone who questions her is either the claim to be either in league with the deep state, which is what I just said, or is improperly accuse the person of malfeasance. Like that's what you're saying about me. Like, this highly coordinated individual who's working hand in hand with the Democrats and the media. Like that's who I am. Like, we just, again, we got to go back to intellectual honesty. Like this, like some of this stuff is so fanciful. Like the team of patriots that are behind this movement to remove Kristina now is the most united group of fiefdoms in the party I've ever seen for a coalition. There are people who are MAGA. There are AmericaFirst people. There's center of the road people. There's people that you would think are more establishment. There are people that are strictly grassroots activists. There are people, there's people that like that are literally like on like the border of being like on the donor class, who are like, if there's anything I can do, like, let us know. She has built, when she said she was going to unite the party, she really has. She has built the greatest coalition that our state probably has the opportunity to have, if, again, we come together for truth in the end of this. Because I think what everyone that has had their eyes open to this is realizing is that she pulled the wool over a lot of people's eyes, and she's continuing to do that. And the longer that we let her trade on our name, the longer that we let her trade on our name, the longer that we endorse this, and all we have to do is say no. All you have to do is stand up and say no, right? All you have to do is say, you know what, we're not doing another thing until you show us everything, or we're not doing another thing until you're gone. I think ultimately that's where it's going to get, because she's so insular about having any conversation or being transparent about anything. But the lawsuit then goes on to talk about the Hillsdale case, where Kristina still is facing some sanctions from that case that she hasn't necessarily been through. But it's really how the parties, the state party, is trying to exert control over county parties, which is really what I think even the sale of the building and the Comerica thing is. That's surely what the vote on last Saturday's meeting would have been about, had there been quorum for a meeting for her to conduct business, would be to, basically take over parties. The language that Jim Kopis is writing in this new constitution is talking about franchise fees for every single county. Well, you'll pay a fee to the state party, and then to send your delegates to the state convention. I mean, it's just, it's like a Ponzi scheme, these people, or a pyramid scheme. It's multi-level marketing, right? And then it goes on to say that, that they were sanctioned in this case, and she hasn't followed through on the sanctions from the thing. That case for the judge in Hillsdale is still pending against her for not honoring the order. There's no transparency. We talked about this. Anyone that's on the budget committee, if people will listen to them, and people are stepping forward, if you see them commenting on social media, they'll more than welcome to give you all this information free. If you call anyone from the budget committee, either a Todd Gilman, or a Jessica Bearfield, or a Dan Couture, these people will tell you what happened. They'll be honest with you, and none of these people are liars, right? None of these people are agents of the deep state. They're just delegates like you and me. I think that these people would offer some valuable insight. And the problem with the no transparency really gets into this thing that I was talking about this separate financial structure that's operating inside the parties, but outside of the bylaws. For example, under the bylaws, Article 5, it talks about what the standing committee's responsibilities are. And it says that the budget committee, this committee shall consist of one regular member from each congressional district committee. This committee shall maintain. It is their job. Shall maintain budget control, review, and approve financial spending, right? And promote sound fiscal policy. It's their job to say, no, this is not sound fiscal policy. So ultimately what this tells me is, because in the lawsuit that Dan Hartman filed, and I don't know what line it is on it, but it's very fairly early in the lawsuit. And it says that the Michigan Republican Party is an organization that operates under its bylaws, right? That's him telling the court that the party is in compliance with how they operate, and that they should be taken, as them coming forward as acting on behalf of the committee because they operate in the bylaws. My question is this: did any state committee member take a vote on this lawsuit? Did any state committee member take a vote on selling the building? Right? Was that brought to the floor for a vote to the body? You don't even get to vote for the state committee anymore. They don't even need you, right? The budget committee has abdicated its authority and its work, because it says this committee shall maintain budget control. They have not maintained budget control. They don't even know the budget. There's budget members, Jessica Barfield, they've all come through and said they don't know what is going on. They can't control the budget. They can't even review it. And here's the other thing. We know by the Joe Moss payments and the other payments that they don't approve the spending. They didn't approve the loan to Caviezel. They didn't approve the spending for Liberty. They don't approve the Good Neighbor program. They don't approve anything. They get told after the fact when the checks are written, cashed, or bounced. I found where they bounce checks, and that's not promoting sound fiscal policy. So, if you're saying that the prior administrations were globalists and they burned it down and money is evil, okay, all right, you got me. All those things, even if I agree with you on all those points, you have to admit still Kristina is not running the party how it's supposed to be ran and under the bylaws. And if we're going to say that we're the party of law and order, we need to operate within the parameters that the organization was founded. And if you don't like it, there's a process to change it. But you can't just go willy-nilly because you don't like the rules, right? Rules for thee and not for me, right? Rules for thee and not for me. Do we all remember what that is?
That would be a problem because, look at this and it's like, is this really how we want our state run? Because if they're going to do it in the party, then the candidates that they support and choose are going to treat us with the same contempt that the people within the party are being treated.
Yeah. So, I want to finalize these last couple of points because this is the end of it. So in maintaining budget control and bylaws, the bylaws require the budget committee at all times to have full access to financial information of the party. The budget committee is never given access or even complete transparent information regarding the finances to them to perform their duties under the bylaws. So they're just telling you that this has never happened. And that it's that alone, because if you look at safe harbor and the FEC, right, just type in FEC safe harbor requirements. There are 7 or 8 requirements. I believe that operating under your party's organizational rules or bylaws is number 8. Right. So this clearly says, and here's the thing with safe harbor, if you're in violation of just one of the safe harbor points, all of them are minimum standards. So you can't even violate one. If you lose safe harbor, when the FEC comes to investigate you and they determine that you're not operating in safe harbor, that means that every violation that you've made is going to be looked at as adversarial. And I'm going to tell you, the party's looking at $250,000 in FEC violations and in state compliance violations. The Democratic Party had this happen to them a couple of years ago when they were doing their Indian reservation thing, and that all came out. And that was $200,000 in debt. You're going to pile that on top of where we already are. The party is functionally bankrupt. She has no way out. And if you think that this isn't going to affect our chances of securing a victory in 2024, then you're out of your mind. It's not some app on a phone that's going to be the thing that's going to get you there. It's not going to be an empty bank account. It's not going to be people making deals in back rooms, the smoke-filled back rooms with Kristina Karamo and Joe Moss at the head of that table. I mean, it's so ludicrous to think that, just a month and a half ago, she was telling us that that'll never happen in her administration, while Joel Studebaker gets up and says, well, that's what's going to happen in our administration. He's just a friend. So then we go on to Ms. Karamo, simultaneously president of an organization supporting Democrats. Donna, before we go into this, there's a controversy because people are going to say, well, Kristina at the McComb event told everybody that she told everybody, if you remember, that she resigned months ago or whatever, right? Or that she's not even part of that organization anymore. I sent you a little video clip real quick.
Just now?
Yeah, no, the one I sent to you earlier to your phone that I texted you. Could you play just that little video for me from the Macomb County event, please?
Yeah, hold on just a minute.
Yep, however long it takes.
I think I already got it up there. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can do this. I think I put it in my Telegram channel for easy access.
Aha.
Why is
that the one?
Yep. Just play this real quick.
Yeah.
MiGOP obligated for prior MiGOP unsecured debt? That's Comerica's error, not the new MiGOP's error. It's the organization's debt. And I find it also very interesting, the claim was made last week that was Brown Weiser's debt, and that was his money. Number one, to give money to an organization, not your money. But since it was him paying off his own debt, of course, at the bank, he never guaranteed the loan. So it wasn't a debt, so which is it? Unless there was inside information we don't know about. But.
Is that something that needs to be changed?
As far as what? Well, that would be something I would, that would be something would change in the bylaws of the state party.
Usually they're always here. There's always a tier before.
Listen right here. Oh no, that was it. Okay, that was the wrong clip. Can you play the one that I just sent you, Donna? Right now, sorry. It's the one I sent to you. I sent it to you, and it was received at 8:05 p.m.
Okay, hold on just a minute.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I got time if you got time, girl.
I got time.
Everyone take a quick bathroom break for a second and come on back.
Yeah, I told everybody I will keep the camera rolling on this because this is too important. We're going to lose this election unless we get the information out. So hang on one second. Let's see what I can do here. There's a lot of comments in the chat, like a lot. So I think we should actually honor people by going there at some point in time.
Yeah, I think I got about 10 more minutes on the report. And then if you want to go through some comments and then we can answer questions on the fly, if there's any from the comments, I'd love to do that. And then I can answer any analysis that you have for questions.
Okay, hang on a minute.
And then there's a document that I sent to you right underneath that I'll need after this clip. If you could pull that up after the video clip.
Sure. Hang on just a minute.
No, take your time. You're good.
Yep.
So while you're going and working on this, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this. So the statement says, finally, and perhaps most troubling fact of all, Ms. Karamo currently serves as the president, and now we found some other information, and we're going to break it to you tonight, president of an out-of-state organization that admittedly supports Democratic candidates. Unauthorized.one is a Nevada domestic nonprofit corporation that was formed on April 5th, 2023. After she was chair, she formed this organization. It was filed on April 5th of this year. Since its formation, Ms. Karamo served as the president of Unauthorized, a fact that has been confirmed within the last month by its executive director, Matt Mack, on a podcast he had written. And in these podcasts, he talks about how Unauthorized One is working with Robert Kennedy Jr., and they're going to work to get Democrats elected, and they want Democrats to serve on the board with Kristina and the organization. But they're going to help Republicans too, but they help everybody, right? And it's just people that love the Constitution. How many Democrats are you out there that are marching for the Constitution? Democrats are Democrats, right?
I don't know. I listen to them on basis on what they stand for, because I do think that right now we've got a uniparty out there that
I agree. I agree.
But
for the case of this argument is this, Donna. Okay, so you're the taxpayers' party, correct?
Yes, which is the Constitution Party.
Yeah,
I keep listening to Kristina talk about this being the Constitution Party. It's not.
Donna, let's talk about this, okay?
Okay.
So you're part of the taxpayers' party. How would you feel if people in the taxpayer party, right, that held a leadership position in your organization on your state committee, let's say, or your executive directors committee, what if one of those people was working in another organization that was actively helping rhino establishment Republicans get elected?
Wouldn't happen. We've already gone through.
Why not, Donna? Why not?
Because we don't stand for the same
now
values.
You understand what I'm talking about.
But the point
being is that she's the party of she's the chair of the Republican Party of Michigan, right? And so if you can get that video up, I want to kind of send this whole message.
My point is this whole thing is a mess right now, and I don't believe what anybody says, whether they're Republican or Democrat anymore, because they don't even know what it stands for.
I agree.
So
a lot of labels.
I don't go by labels. I'm done with the labels because they're highly misleading.
All right, let's see what she says about unauthorized.
Which Kristina is president of? Okay. A nonpartisan entity, or is it Republican? How does this affect her role as chair of the party? So when I ran for Secretary of State in 2021, it was a group of us who called the Candidates Coalition, and we all band together to basically counter George Soros' SOS PAC. And so many of us continue to fight for election integrity. Since 2021, we've continued to fight. I was involved in an organization. It has no impact. The goal is to make sure that we have election integrity. But, my role is definitely changing now that I'm chair of the Michigan Republican Party, but I don't have as much time. But the fight for election integrity, it is not a partisan issue. It is one of the biggest challenges we have in this country. It's the biggest threat to our republic. It's corruption in our election system. And there's a reason why our own party, after 2020, did nothing about systemic election corruption, because there's Republicans who benefited from the system as well, from the corrupt election system. So that is our goal. But, that is my role is changing with that organization. simply because, I don't have the time, but that is our goal, was to fight election corruption, but I'm no longer president. Just as a duplicate, it says, what is Karamo's level of commitment to unauthorized one? This is kind of a rhetorical question. For those demanding bank account statements, how many people in the room provide their accounts to the public?
So, here's Kristina saying that, this is something from a long time ago. This isn't something, ever since I've been chair, I don't have time for this, right? My time with this is going to change in the organization. That's not true. She coalition of candidates stopped as soon as the election was over in 2022 in November, right? So this is 6 months later in April. She purposefully forms an outside organization that's actively working with Democrats after she's already been elected as chair. And if you can pull up this document right here, okay, that document that I sent you, at that point in time,
I'm looking for the document. Send it
to you. It should be right below the video I sent you.
Right
above the video.
Okay, right above. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yep. And so right at the time where, I called out the administration for some of this stuff early, they have this rebuttal meeting. So she has this rebuttal meeting on the 19th, right? On October 19th, she comes out, she answers that question, says, oh yeah, this started back in 2021 with some people, it's just about election integrity. That's all that we're doing. It's just election integrity. None of that's not true. It's about helping Democrats get elected. It's about helping, quote unquote, both Republicans and Democrats to get elected. So it's just so funny. So this is a note. We actually contacted Unauthorized One. We got a response back from them. And it says, hello, no, Ms. Karamo is not the president nor on the board anymore of Unauthorized since October 2023. So literally 3 days after she has that meeting, in Macomb, where she gets asked that question for the first time. You can tell how panicked she was. They asked her, is it a nonpartisan organization? And she said, oh, no, it's, it's Republicans. It's connected to, we're fighting George Soros. It was all Republican candidates with Jim Marchant and the coalition of candidates. And it's kind of the same. She was trying to make it sound like that's what the organization was. It's not. It's a totally new organization that she formed that's doing advocacy out there for people that aren't part of her constituent base. And, everyone says that, or she's out there saying like that, oh, we're so deep state. She posted today that we're helping the Democratic machine control the state, and we don't want to let go of our Democratic, friend controlled power or whatever. This one was on the president, where people were on podcasts mentioning her name in the same sentence, talking about how she's helping and her organization is helping Robert Kennedy Jr. get on the ballot in every state. Right now, are you a Trumper? Right? Are you a Trumper? Because I'm a Trumper, right? I'm MAGA, and if you that, maybe that's a question. Do we even know who this woman is and what she really believes? I mean, she told us everything she was going to do at the conference, and then when she got elected to be chair, and then I think that we're just a far cry from all those things. So this is just kind of to go to serve this, and it talks about that. If that was ever found out about a staffer in the past administration, some other people were asked about this. If you were ever found out in our party to be working actively to get Democrats elected while holding a position in our party, you were fired or you were kicked out. That's just how it works. It's the same repulse, Donna, that you gave me when I asked you the same question about if that kind of a type of a person was in the U.S. taxpayer party, what would your response be? And it's that visceral reaction. No, we're not that. We know.
Well, the thing of it is, though, that the problem that I see is that there isn't any checks in whether somebody says they're Republican or Democrat. So I'm repulsed by the labels at this point in time, because they're all of them misleading. There are so many people in the Republican Party that are lying their tail off.
Yeah, Donna, listen.
And so the whole thing is, there's got to be more oversight, or people have to look into who people are and not just rely on labels, because they're highly misleading. Yeah, highly misleading. Yeah, if somebody came in though and said, "Let me finish." Yep. If somebody came in and was well, I mean, we've got examples of this right now, because it's like Ron Weiser was on the Atlantic Council, and he also was contributing to Joe Biden on, which is a past administration. Everyone is playing a game out there right now, and the only way we figure this out is if we get in there and we truly do some digging into who they are, what they're associated with, and what they've done in the past, and not just rely on labels, because that's highly misleading. So I have a problem with the whole system is broken right now.
I'm gonna prove what you said in this point. Yes, take the labels out of it. But how many Democrats? No, I have a question for you. How many people on the left do you ideologically line up with?
How many do I line up with? I don't line up with anybody entirely on the right or the left.
That's not my question. But that's not my question, right?
I'm an equal opportunity political hater right now, Warren.
I understand that.
That's not a question I'm even going to answer, because I pretty much can tell you that there is not one person out there
that's why I love you.
In the state of Michigan that I could in good faith get behind. There's not one on either side, because everyone is lying their tail off in the state of Michigan. Now, on the national level, President Trump, I really do like, but I see some error. I'm going to tell you, there is so much error out there right now that I am going to tell you right now, it's going to be a very, very tough vetting process to get anyone past Donna Brandenburg standard for what I believe that
I like it.
Behind and say
the toughest bet out there, girl.
I'm going to say, if I'm going to say I trust any, like I like some of the suing that Robert Kennedy has done with Big Pharma. He is, but I would not.
I don't like his positions on global warming and what he thinks we should be doing. Man.
No, but you know what? If you had President Trump is the presidential candidate, and I think putting him into a position and this is just what I think, you take somebody for what their skill is. His skill is in lawfare, right? Yeah. If you had a good president and vice president that was out there that was solid, right? Someone who was really solid, which President Trump, of course, is the rightful president of the United States. I like President Trump. I like what he did with our economy. I like what he did with tariffing. He set us up to have complete and total tax reform. And all you got to look at what he did. He kept us out of wars. He kept us out of inflation. We had the energy
drill, baby.
It was like he did everything right. Robert Kennedy Jr., honestly, if you had him in there as Attorney General, he excels at fighting causes. So let's just say you had somebody.
I'd like him at Health and Human Services. That's where I'd like him.
I would like to see him in protecting the people, because he would excel. I would think if he had somebody that he was working with that could say, we want to look into this. His ability to beastly go after some issues that need to be discussed would be amazing. Now, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid on the global warming or any of that nonsense out there, but watch him fight for individuals with Big Pharma coming after him, and to standing up for the individuals out there. And I think that I would be remiss in saying that there's ever been a Republican out there in that capacity, because we have crap that we've had in a political arena for as long as I've been alive. If you can take someone that has that skill set to defend individuals and the damage that was done with them, I'm not looking for Jesus out there in the political realm, because if you put trust in man,
you know where it goes.
Look at the skill set. I think he would actually make a very good attorney general. I really do. Somebody that would go after them in a lawfare, lawsuit capacity. And if somebody had the guts to go after these corporations, which nobody has yet done in either party, and actually insisted on enforcing antitrust and going after Big Pharma for the absolute knowing of doing damage to the population. I think he could be really amazing in that capacity, and I like what he has to say. I really do. But as far as president, the rightful president of the United States, which is Donald J. Trump, has done everything right. And he's a person,
Yeah,
and
listen, men are fallible. Men, stop putting your faith in man.
right.
But like trust and verify, right? Hold people to
right.
account, law and order, intellectual integrity. The
Right.
things that we're talking
Keep
about.
us out of the wars that are just this endless war of killing our men and women for what? To enrich the globalist pockets. This is where this has got to stop. This money has to come back
to basically, to basically wrap up that portion of it. It just kind of closes with like, this is a severe conflict of interest. And the funny thing is on that document that you had up where I just read the top part saying she resigned in 2020 and 10-23. Yeah. Well, in the document, the actual press release that Matt Meck signed, right? The guy that's on all the podcasts saying about all the things they're doing. It says that she resigned for conflicts of interest. So she's admitting in her resignation to unauthorized one that she had conflicts of interest. But she stayed in that conflict position for months at a time and then didn't tell anybody that she was doing it, right? Nobody knew this until the secret got out. That's the crazy part, right? For a woman that's transparent and truthful, she hid this from everybody in the party until we exposed it. And that's kind of nuts, man. That's not a leader, right? That's not being honest.
Well, you've got to. So I'll tell you this right now. I'm not a fan of the political parties at all. They're set up absolutely incorrectly, and it encourages grift and corruption. We're never going to get away with this. And we were warned by President Washington as well as Adams that this was going to go this way. And so we go back to the founding fathers and the Constitution and what worked. And we are so far apart from this that we can't even recognize what the United States of America looks like right now. Both of these two parties, the uniparty, are crap. And we're going to have to go back and dare to be Americans to fix this mess. And I, it's like, I am going to tell you right now, everybody out there better start rejecting these labels and terms of the cult mentality and start thinking for yourself, because that's all we've got out there in the uniparty. And I'm going to tell you, they have to come down, because you're not going to fix this from the inside. It's not going to happen. And I would lay pretty much everything on the line for putting that out there. So
I'm gonna try to prove you wrong. I'm gonna try to rally troops. I'm gonna try to be the good soldier. I'm gonna try to listen. You know what? Like sitting at home and just saying this doomer defeatist attitude that, oh, everything's broken, you'll never fix anything. It's too deep. It's too entrenched.
Like, go to
we have agency. We have our own personal agency. I'm allowed to invest my time in what I want to invest in. And if I think that this is what the best push for the party is to secure future for the things I believe in, then that's every citizen's right. That's the beauty of America, like
every
that's the promise.
Has a right. But when you have a political party, Warren, that has gotten so far, I mean, this is what happened in Nazi Germany. This is what happened in Cambodia and all of the things that have taken civilizations away from the society. It starts with the parties.
Oh, yeah. No, listen. Yeah, I mean, you can look at the Bolshevik I mean, you can look at everything. You can look at everything. Listen, but that's
where we are right now.
And that's my point, right? Is that we should be on high alert, and we're sleeping at the switch.
I agree.
The delegate base is sleeping at this. I'm looking into the camera to tell you. Right? We are at that moment in time where we should be very vigilant about what's going on with our party and our leaders. And we are sycophants. We are sleeping at the switch, and we're not being honest. We're not taking the moral high ground. We're not the party of law and order. If we let these things continue to happen in our name, and I'm going to finish the report because it's the last paragraph we're there, and it's just the conclusion paragraph. I'm just going to read it word for word as it was written by Troy. And it says this: although many Republicans may agree with most, if not all, of the policy positions Ms. Karamo espouses, and we're excited with Ms. Karamo's platform, that does not mean, looking at what we've seen in totality in this report, and that's my ad-libbing, that Karamo is qualified to chair the party. Unfortunately, it's exact opposite. Ms. Karamo has proven not only to be unqualified, but she has also in 9 months brought the party to the brink of bankruptcy. Not only that, but there is no chance the party will be able to recover under her leadership. in time to make an impact in 2024. Now, Donna, you don't think anything can save it because the parties are broken. I understand that.
Well, I'm
going to continue to run my fool's errand and try to save the party for the cycle. And that's where the kind of report leaves off. There's a lot more information in here as you dive into the facts. And I went over a lot of it, and it didn't sound like it's very damning or impactful. But if you read through it, the citing and sourcing, and then go to the 120 pages of documents, which are bank statements and everything else, and testimony and blah, 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 I think that you'll see that it's a pretty comprehensive document. We've dotted our I's and crossed our T's.
I love the report. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And with that said, up to this point,
let's do comments.
Up to this point, everybody's got to start thinking and getting off their behind. If you really believe that this is the way it's going to go, then the apathy's got to stop, and people have to get back into this fight and try and resolve it. So let me go to some of the comments here, because I'm sure people are complaining about me getting off track here. So be it. But anyhow, let me go into some of the comments here, because there's a lot of comments on here. Prove me wrong. Get in there and actually write this thing, because so far we're losing everything because of apathy and inaction and waiting so long to write things that it's really pathetically late. Let's see. Scott Ogney's here. Will you be posting proof? The proof is in the report. Don Beatty.
I can send Scott a copy.
What's that?
I can send Scott a copy, no problem.
Yeah. Don B. Problems out of the gate is where what people really need to pay attention. Understanding money left by Weiser and how it was spent. Also, Don, problems out of the gate. Let's see. Scott, why doesn't Warren Carpenter's lawyer help with the locust standee? Warren Carpenter is a lot of talk and little action. We will not win any other elections. We get rid of the corrupt election system. Warren does not support locust standee investigations to get Benson, Brader, and others criminally charges. Neither does Karamo or Halloran, for that matter. Chuckles is a joke says, link to the report, MiGOP News, and the failed leadership of the Karamo administration. We have little action. Carpenter, let's see. Dark Nook, why is a person that left the party so fascinated and the party left? You really got to consider the motive. Why am I interested in all of this? Because you know what? This party has so much, and I didn't leave the party. You got to understand, I was abandoned and nobody fought for me. I was never challenged, and I proved my innocence in a court of law that this was in the party abandoned me because they already had their chosen loser funded by DeVos. So we're going to just leave that one alone. But you can listen to plenty of what's been said there. And I'm not going to explain myself again, because this is like revisiting, vomit a dog puked up. Okay. It's like you're like the dog is returning to its vomit again.
Girl, I love you. I do.
Get it figured the hell out. So Don Beatty says, to say that Warren is all talk and no action has got to be a joke. He's spending hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars on trying to report to stop the bleed. I give you a lot of credit. You're the one person that I've seen that's really gotten some go on this report and calling it out for what it is. And I'm hoping that this is a start from action. I would love nothing better than to see this thing fixed. I go back to shoveling horse manure and somebody steps up and gets the job done. Then I'll be real happy right now, because I never really
I want to go back. I want to go back to my kids, man. I want to go back to the America I remember 25, 30 years ago.
So Scott says, Don, why does Warren Carpenter oppose criminal charges against the Secretary of State and others in the Bureau of Elections? We will never have Okay.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Call him. And I'll make the connection.
Yeah, I don't have a problem talking. I mean, he's making assumptions on things that I've never made a statement on. So. Okay.
So anyhow, it's like Scott says you're a fraud, and Don says stay on topic, Scott, and whatever. Let's just keep moving here. And so talk to each other and get this ironed out.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Scott. I actually liked him during the chair race.
Yeah, I love Scott Ogney. I think he does a good job.
Yeah, he's a character.
And I think locust standee, really does. There's got to be criminal prosecutions, and that's what these guys are getting into. Everybody needs to look at election integrity force and see what's going on with Scott Ogney Joe and Bacali and Sandy Kiesel on this because they're going for criminal prosecutions. Okay. Until you get rid of the corrupt election system, doesn't matter. You can raise trillions of dollars and it won't matter if you have a system selecting the winner. That's exactly what's happening.
But Donna, this is a false comparison. Okay. You're talking about two totally separate things. It's saying like we can excuse all of the malfeasance, all the breaking of the law. We don't have to be the party of law and order in our own house because we have other big fish to fry. So it means that we can, no, this is what they're saying.
Both of them have to happen.
But while I understand that, you cannot discount the fact that this is not the way the organization is supposed to run. We were promised something totally different. I've talked to you all presentation long about moving of the goalposts and how we start here with one thing. And then as we go down the transition to where we're at today, 9 months later, no promises are fulfilled. Goalposts are moved. Transparency is stamped out and people are treated like Gestapo, like the brown shirts come and throw them out of the party and then destroy their name. It's disgusting.
Right. And I agree with that. But here we've gotten off there's some core points here. The machines have to be removed and that there's got to be clearly defined.
But Donna, that's nothing to do with what I'm talking about, right? That's somebody else's fight. That's but see, remember you agreed that I got my own agency.
Right.
You agreed you agreed that what I'm doing is noble. So what these people are trying to say, because I didn't talk about election integrity in this report, therefore somehow I don't care about election integrity.
No, it doesn't.
But that's what they're conflating. No, read the comment again then, because that's what these individuals are saying, and that's not where I stand. I was at TCF. I helped with investigations. I spoke to Jim Hoft about things that were going on in 2022. I watched drop boxes with Phil O'Halloran. I helped challenge and train challengers and assist in that. I opened up my office to trainings. Don't tell me what I am and what I'm not. I will not stand by idly. People cast aspersions about me that are untrue and that are unbased. I am a huge component or a huge supporter of election integrity. It's the one thing. It's the reason I support the boss, because it was stolen. I'm a denier. I'm a proud denier. No one can take that from me. Okay, I know who I am.
I'm reading the comments here, and this is what it is. So we're going back and forth with somebody's uninformed, and Mark Fort no longer supports Kristina Karamo. And let's see, debate about a pissing contest surrounding election integrity. No thanks. I believe that's from Dawn. And Mark Darknook says Mark Fortin has been manipulated. And then Scott says, I don't support KK either. And see, I'm always calling her out as well as Phil O'Halloran. And then I'm going to stop there and go on. Scott, we need to focus on the bigger issue and work together for common goal. People are allowed to make mistakes and make amends. There's no need to try and belittle Dawn. So we're going to just keep going here. This is getting into a little bit of a pissing contest in the contest. And so that's okay. We're going to move here. A lot of redundancy. And Scott, I'll have you back on. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and I support the locus standi. I support this report that Warren put out, and I support the issues on both of them. And I'm going to move past some of this. Let's see. It was just a question for Scott from Mush Rush, and then Dark Nook said, "What has the locus standi accomplished so far? Any changes, Scott?" Scott comes back with this, and let's see. As long as a corrupt election process in place, Republicans or conservatives will never rise again. So that's his point. Okay. So we're going to move past this a minute. We have to move past this because
man.
Okay. So has Karamo missed a paycheck while the party has burned? I bet she hasn't.
Yes, she has. And it's okay, but she took more than her fair share earlier on. She was actually taking more payments than what was passed as her salary, but then starved herself from some payments. And I'm sure she's back on the payroll again now that they've got, even $5 in the account. If not, then it goes through her expense account that she's ran, $15,000, $20,000 for Starbucks and 7-Eleven and every time, Ubers and, Tim Horton runs and whatever, booze. That's what's going on. You're paying for this woman's lifestyle while she destroys the party.
Okay, hang on a minute. I'm reading some more. We're gonna blow through some of this because there's an argument going on in the chat here. I'm gonna let you guys have it out here, and I think that there's there's a lot of people that put a lot of time into this, and I've strongly supported both of you guys that are on here right now. So I'm just going to keep growing. I've got like a bazillion screenshots here. This is amazing. This is very, very, very passionate discussion.
Yeah, you want interaction, right? You want the best ideas to rise to the top. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, well, I think we're all out there for election integrity, and I do support what Locust Standy is standing for. I think they're doing a great job, and I'm really thankful for them going towards election integrity and going for prosecution there. And I think this, and I also think that it's you've got to hold people accountable. So I'm going to keep going here. Cult mentality is correct. I'm blaming all the Karamo enablers when this party is completely destroyed. And they're looking the other way. Karamo has not missed a paycheck, I'm guessing. And Don Beatty says truth. Please look into Dan Hartman's Business Bear River Health. You can start with try that again. Executive something been removed in the past 2 years. I have no idea what they're trying to say. So there's Bear River Health. You put that address in the Wayback Machine and go back 2 years. Okay, that's a good one. Dawn, let's see. Sadly, Melinda helped her. And then who has built this? This attorney's name is Troy Cumings.
Yep.
And who built that report? And Larry Lager. Larry said, no, we didn't vote on this. No, we didn't vote on the building.
Nope. Which is operating outside of the bylaws. She has stole your power. You are an impotent body until you reclaim your authority.
Yes,
JD Glazer is doing a really good job of having this conversation in the chats with people to use the Socratic method to ask questions, to say, do you understand where we're at and what you've let happen in your name? And it's not just your personal name, because the 107 people at that state committee also represent about 4,000 to 8,000 delegates, depending upon if we fill all the seats, which then ultimately represent 4.5 million, 5 million voters. So your responsibility at the very top of that apex is very important, and to just advocate that authority and sign it off to somebody else is not leadership, and it's not the principles in which this party was formed.
Okay, there is no victory in 2024. Somebody says this has set back the state party 2 years. And Dr. Nick said, who is we, Donna? You're not affiliated with a party, is my understanding. We should be all American. Stop being an idiot.
Yeah.
Stop being an idiot out there. Yeah. This is the problem. This is just another way to. I'm not part of the cult.
So you can't have a conversation. So then no one can talk to you. Listen,
nobody
the reason
that
America,
that's like kicking me out, like Kristina did for the meeting. We're not going to talk to Donna Brandenburg because she's not part of the party. Man, go take your little cult and go sit in the corner in your little freaking echo chambers, because that's exactly what's destroyed this nation right there, is that idiot mentality.
Yeah,
okay? I mean, Kristina was the one that said, Donnie, you're not a real Republican, after the party abandoned me when I didn't leave. Screw you for saying that. Let's see. Republicans that benefit from election corruption, not in this state. I don't understand it, but it's okay. I think Don says, I think Kristina needs to sign a conflict of interest form. Donna is upset. She was asked why she was there by KK. She is on a personal vendetta. No, I'm not. I'm an American. I'm watching my state go to hell, and I'm not drinking anybody's Kool-Aid right now. This is somebody says, Dr. Nook, you sound like Chuck on a steamer. Yeah, no kidding. That's exactly what it sounds like. Can't talk. You can't have an opinion unless you're part of the party. That's lame. You want to know what drives support away from election integrity? Scott does. That's from somebody else. So, you know what? We got a lot of dissension and people that are not, just out there talking. I have a ability. Okay, I don't have a right. This is what they're saying. Donna Brandenburg does not have the right to have an opinion on a party that's so public to that, it's like, no, I have the right to have an opinion and I'm going to do it. So go ahead.
This is what I want to say in closing. Okay. Mm-hmm. You just read about 150 freaking comments.
Yeah.
Right. And all of them were about something else, except for the topic which we're talking about, which tells me that someone's in your chat spamming it. So people won't comment about the things that are actually transpiring, which is another way to stop conversation and to bypass this and to say, oh, because he's this. Yeah, it's misdirection, you guys. So I want to go back to the point that I started with, and then I got to go because it's almost 11 o'clock and I got to drive back home from my shop. My wife's probably like, when is my husband coming home after the day I've had? But I want to throw it back to intellectual honesty. I want to throw it back to taking the moral high ground. I want to go back to reclaiming truth as the party of law and order. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be about a party. It can be about your personal truth, right? And walking your faith and living your faith, whatever that faith is and whatever that faith dictates about it, right? All faiths say that there's a truth, that there's a fact, that there's a light, that there's a God, right? And those things are all positives. And that's what I think that we need to unite around. I think that that's what I was talking about here, was shining light on things that nobody really knows. And a lot of people think that it's not true because it's so unbelievable. But the reason that I'm here is because this is the way that I saw it in my agency with the information that was given to me. And now there's 30 people that have contributed to this report, probably in total, that have all in one way contributed, that all see it the exact same way. And this is all going to culminate in a challenge for leadership. And I expect people that if they have questions to reach out, text me, and follow me on Twitter at Carpenter Warren at Twitter, and you'll see when I post stuff. If you want to have a conversation with me, you can text me at my telephone number 248-931-2173. I don't care. You send hate mail, do what you want to do. It's not going to stop me. I told people when I started this, I'm going to see it all the way to the end, even if I got to drag everyone over the finish line kicking and screaming.
I love this report. I absolutely love it. I love what you've done here to bring the truth forward. And I mean, thanks, I got to say hats off and kudos to you, because this is one of the best things that I've seen come across the line in a very long time. It's specific. It's to the point. And I hope that everyone takes this very seriously, because we need to come together as conservatives in this state and stand for exactly what you're talking about here. We can't, when I say I'm disillusioned by a lot of this stuff, it's the cult mentality that blindly follows leadership like Kristina's to the destruction of everything that we all hold near and dear to our hearts. We believe in a Republican form of government. That makes us a Republican right there, right? I mean, duh, that's a big duh. If we believe in a Republican form of government, we are Republicans, right? Amen. And so we are standing on the same side with the same principles of less government, of individual rights, of all of those things that we hold true, and bringing us back to the Constitution, which is the thing we can unite over without exception. That puts us on the same side of the table. And so if everyone can get on that same side of the table and go for honesty and integrity, you just united the entire state. Amen. Right there. Amen. And away from that's what we need to do.
People are starving for truth out there. You see, like that's why Trump's base continues to grow, because he says things and people are starving for the truth. They're starving for someone to be a truth teller. Stand up and be brave. Stand up and be counted. Use your agency, use your human agency given to you by your God, right, to fulfill the promise of what you believe, and do so in truth. Do so in fact. Do so in the need and the yearning to search for fact and truth. And don't let people shout you down. Don't let people tell you that you can't think. Don't let people to tell you that what you believe is wrong if you believe it in your heart. And if you can prove factually in a documentation like this with a bunch of exhibits, then do that too.
This is one of the best things that I've seen come out, because you've got this so well supported. And I just want to say, hats off for you. I mean, I like having the discourse back and forth because, we need to ask questions.
Yeah.
Prove it to me. Everybody out there, prove it to me who's a disenfranchised individual on the process, because I am representative of this state, and you're going to need the people that are disenfranchised in order to take this state back, because we got a 30% voting population right now. You cannot win unless you reach out to people that are disenfranchised. And this kind of truth that you put out there is what it's going to take to unite this state behind the accountability and prove that you stand for something. And I think we're going to be able to pull the state together this way. And I just want to say thank you so much. And
thanks for having me so late. I appreciate you.
Thank you to everybody in the MiGOP chat. I love spooking around in there, and I'm you guys all know that I'm watching what you're saying. Every single post that's on there, I'm watching. I just don't comment. I spook around and lurk around in there, and I've got a lot of respect for a lot of people in there, like Bethany Wheeler, and
she's a heck of a researcher.
She
I'll get some shout outs to some people that have worked really hard and tirelessly. Bethany's done a really incredible job. Jonathan Chapman.
I love Jonathan
He's been invaluable. I had an opinion about him before I met him. He is so smart. He is so talented. If anyone is running a campaign or running for office, you should really think about talking to Jonathan, because he really understands messaging and micro-targeting in a way a lot of people don't. And,
I love him. I think he is brilliant. Jonathan.
Maggie Kurzweil has been great. Matt Wilk's been great. Mark Fortin and Lisa Mankiewicz have been incredible. There's so many people to mention. Aaron Tuckfield with his data has been incredible. He's an incredibly smart and sophisticated data guy for us. There's a million people from every angle of the party that I'm forgetting to mention people, but that came together to work on this, and all these people didn't believe me. And so if I was able to earn their trust with presenting facts and documents, not because I was a slappy and said the same things that they did, I came to my own opinions about everything based upon the information that was exposed to me. And as I learned more, I didn't take it on face value. I researched it, double checked it, fact it, and then sent it to the lawyers. He scrubbed it, and then he approves it because he's saying, hey, this actually is real. So that's the process we went through to give you this information. This isn't just me at a keyboard, right? This is 3 months of 30 or 40 hours a week of putting this in to return this report. So I got a boogie. My wife's going to kill me, Donna.
That's okay. I got to say a little bit more, because the MiGOP chat that's there, the organization, I look at the organization that people set up, and I'm going to tell you some of, I got on there at first because it was like Donna Hindenburg and this, that, and the other thing. And I forgive all of you for not actually talking to me. But I find it kind of amusing right now because it's all political theater. But I listen, I listen to what everybody says, and I don't give a rat's rear end what anybody really says. But I look for competency in it, even if people don't have maybe the right way to present things. I look for competency, and the competency that I see in some of the people in this MiGOP chat is off the charts.
Yeah, there's some of the best researchers I've ever met.
You have got some really stellar people that if I were looking for somebody to consult for an unbiased opinion on things based on law, the ones I would be listening to. Okay, so he jumped off on me, but the ones that I would be listening to would be Jonathan Chapman. I'd be listening to him. I'd be listening to Bethany Wheeler. I'd be listening to Maggie, and some of these people that bring good things. Now, do I give everybody a complete pass all the time? No, I always ask questions, and then I check things out for myself. But these are some really good people in there, and I want to thank all of them. So I guess we're done here. Warren needed to go home. So, but thank you. So UP Melanie said, what's the breaking news? It's this report. It's going through the report. Oh, there you go. You jump back on. Came back on.
My computer died out, so sorry.
So what I said is, I'm like, there's some really good people on this MiGOP chat that look to me like they're as pissed off as I am over this whole situation and want to get to the truth of it. And Bethany is amazing. I look at what she's got out there. And like I said, I'm going to tell you, Jonathan and Bethany always source what they have to say. I've never seen them not source what they say. And the same thing with they put out there. And that's what we have to have in order to establish trust. Now, if we have people like that are willing to dig into people and out their own party, we've got something to talk about right there. That's the first step in cleaning house in any organization, is being willing to criticize yourself in your own house. Jesus talked about it. In the end time, it's going to be the Christians, the church, that's going to be the hardest hit with evaluation. I'm the hardest on people because I want to clean my own house out, right? And that's what I'm seeing in this MiGOP chat. These people are brutal with cleaning out their own house. I love it, because you have to have that. And you can't sit there and go, oh, the Democrats. This is a bunch of crap, because so much is happening within the party, and they're actually doing this. And so I just want to say to them, thanks for having the guts to go against the cult mentality and bringing out truth. You're in that group. There's a guy named Jeff. I think I don't know how to say his name. Fuss. That he'll bring. Jeff Fuss.
Jeff's a good writer. Jeff's a real good writer.
A good writer. You've got some people there's some people in that chat that show me honesty, integrity, and brilliance. And I just want to thank every single one of you, not as a party person, but as a freaking American, because we support and we represent each other first. And that's what has to come first. So anyhow, thank you so much. Thank you, God, so much for every single person out there. I have to end this in prayer here. Thank you, God, for every single person out there who has had the guts to stand for your right purposes, to fight for your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, as one nation under you, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, where we stand for truth and righteousness, and that we can stand before you, God Almighty, with confidence that when we were called to, we did the right thing. And I ask that every single person that's willing to stand up for America is blessed, and that your favor would be upon them. And I also pray that you would have Warren's wife give him grace for not being home right away, and that this would be a really good night, and let everybody know that you love him so very much. In Jesus Christ's precious name we pray, amen. Thanks for being on here, Warren, and thanks for keeping.
I'll give you one of these, Dee. Give you the heart, girl. I'll give you the heart. All right. Thanks for everything. If you need anything, call me. God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you. God bless everyone out there. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. See you tomorrow morning. We're going to be going through something else. John Teeter's not going to be on in the morning, so we're going to be going through the nonsense of turning Americans into criminals, because I'm a little pissed off right now about what I went through in an airport the other day. And I guess we're going to talk about it. I went off so bad on TSA that the guy that was in TSA was sitting there just laughing, because I was just talking to this guy about what a bunch of third world country banana republic crap we were into. So we'll see you in the morning. Bye.